Hello, my name is Collection Connoisseur. I collect digital thingamabobs and video games, and today I'm playing Slay the Spire. Now, this time on Slay the Spire, we're doing an Overexplained run. There's no challenge run today. This is the second of the Overexplained runs that I am doing, I guess. The first one was with the defect. This one is going to be with the Watcher. Now, this is going to be one extremely long run because I'm going to explain every thought that I have about how to play through the run. So it's going to take a while and it's only going to be one run. Just in case you were not prepared for that. I'm going to give it a second because it seems like my live stream might not be going out successfully. Alright, well, let's hope it's going out. Anyway, we are going to be playing as the Watcher today. This is partially due to viewer choice. I asked last time, should I do this again? And if I do this again, what character I should do it with? And people chose the Watcher as the one to do. And kind of thinking that we're not sending... I think I'm having trouble with the stream. Alright, it looks like the trouble was on my end. So, let's actually get started. So, with the Watcher, I am going to play as the highest Ascension level that I have unlocked with this profile. This is my challenge run profile, so I don't have that many Ascension levels unlocked. But we're going to go with the highest, which is level 6. And I am going to go through everything that I'm thinking. First things first with the Watcher. The Watcher starts with the Pure Water Relic. At the start of each combat, you add a Miracle to your hand. Miracle is a card that gives you 1 energy. You can't see it here. Actually, I don't know. You can't see it. Anyway, it gives you 1 energy sometime during the combat. It has Retain, which means that sometime during the combat you get 1 extra energy. Now that's nice, but I consider it the least valuable of the starting relics in the game. The Ironclad has one that heals you. That's quite nice. The Silent has one that you start with 2 extra cards in your starting hand. Your starting turn is one of the most important turns to have more cards. So starting with 2 extra is quite valuable. The Defect starts with an Orb, which really makes it so the Defect actually does something at the beginning. And the Watcher starts with Pure Water, which is fine. And really just fine. It's technically slightly better than the Lantern. The Lantern Relic gives you 1 energy on the first turn. That's usually the turn with most characters that you want the extra energy. With the Watcher, not usually. So the Pure Water is better than the Lantern, but only just better than the Lantern. So Pure Water is fine to get rid of, in my opinion. That means that, unlike other characters, I am going to consider this lose your starting relic, obtain a random boss relic, more than I normally would. So the options we have: transform a card. Transforming a card is fine. You're always going to get something better than your starting cards. Transforming a strike or a defend. Perfectly fine concepts. For the Watcher, I would transform a defend. Obtaining 100 gold is small. I would normally only do that if there's an early shop, which there is, so it is definitely an option. There's even a shop there. Well, we'll talk about the map in a second. Lose 7 max HP is probably one of the least consequential of the possible costs here. And choosing a rare card to obtain can be especially good with the Watcher, because the Watcher has some very good rare cards, but a lot of not great rare cards. So choosing the rare card is much better than getting a random rare card for the Watcher. There's a large number of rares in the Watcher pool that are not very valuable for most runs. That's different than other characters. Other characters, most of the rare cards are good in most decks with those characters. But for the Watcher, getting a random rare card is much worse than choosing from one of three. Then obtain a random boss relic. Boss relics can be quite good. When I am picking this last option, there's a couple things I'm thinking about. One of the things is, what are the possible boss relics? So there's a couple that immediately come to mind every time I consider this option. One of them is Pandora's Box, colloquially known as the P-Box. The P-Box can be an amazing start. What it does is it transforms all of your strikes and defends into random cards. That means that it gets rid of all of our worst starting cards, all 8 of them, replacing them with random cards which are almost guaranteed to be better. That can be an extremely strong start. On the other side, there is the Busted Crown. Busted Crown gives you an extra energy, but you only get to choose from 1 card in card rewards rather than 3, which can be okay if you take the Busted Crown at the end of Act 2, can very rarely be okay if you take it at the end of Act 1, and is awful if you start with it as a random boss relic. Now, I am not very incentivized by these other 3 options. I consider them pretty small benefits, so I am going to take this last option. But before we do that, let's look at our map. When I'm looking at a map in Slay the Spire, especially in Act 1, I'm looking to go to elites. I want to go to as many elites as possible. This particular map is actually quite nice for that, because there's a couple paths that bring us through 3 elites. And getting elites in the second half of the act, like you would get here, is quite nice. This path is also not a bad option, getting 3 elites, including the Burning Elite. I like to prioritize elites early, because getting relics early really helps shape what type of deck you want to make. It makes some cards that you might pick better or worse than others. And getting those relics early is much better than getting them late, so you know what type of deck to build in the earliest time where it matters the most what cards you're picking. Also, with the Watcher in particular, the Watcher's starting deck is very powerful. Very good at dishing out damage, not so great at blocking. However, for dishing out damage, it's very good, which is exactly what you want in Act 1. So since the Watcher's starting deck is so strong in Act 1, taking as many elites as you can with the Watcher is even better than most of the other characters. So, let's lose our starting relic, obtain a boss relic, see what we get. We got Ectoplasm. So we gain an energy at the start of our turn. That is much better than Miracle, of course. We have 4 energy to work with instead of 3. However, we can no longer obtain gold. Not great to start out with, but much better than some other possibilities. I think the Ectoplasm is strong. It is a strong start. However, it does incentivize us to avoid shops. We could go to that first shop, considering it's the only shop that will do anything for us. We really only get 1 shop, so I'm thinking let's go to the first shop that we can see. So I already told you that I wanted to prioritize elites. So I'm really considering this right path here with the Burning Elite, or the left path here that has 3 elites in the second half of the act. The Burning Elite doesn't give you any extra benefits other than getting a key in order to get through Act 4, and it is more dangerous than the other elites. So, early in the game, prioritizing an early elite is not what I would normally do. Really look for that in Act 3, but with the Watcher, it could be something that you do. So the next thing that I care about is fires. So I can go to either one of these fires, or that one, and this path actually has a fire on the way. If we chose the right path, we would only get 2 fireplaces in the entire act. One right there, and one at the end. So those 2 fireplaces is less than 3 fireplaces, which we get on the left, which means I really don't want to go on the right path. So let's go the left path. We do get to decide a couple things. For one, if we feel like we're not doing so well when we get to this point, we could branch off, get some healing, and only go to 1 elite rather than 2. It's not likely that we'll do that, but it's nice to have that branching path. And at the beginning, we get to choose how many normal enemies we want to take versus question marks. I really like events in Slay the Spire. I probably over what do I want to say? I choose events a little bit more often than I should, but I really like the events. I probably won't go to 3 in a row at the beginning though, so we're probably going this way. That way we have 2 card choices, plus the shop, which is kind of a 3rd card choice, and then 2 events into our fire. So I'm thinking that we go this path. Great, let's get started. And Prosione, welcome to the stream. Now, for the Watcher, Eruption is your most significant starting card. Eruption is what you want to play at some point during the battle in order to turn over and start dealing damage, because entering Wrath stance, you deal double damage. You also take double damage, however, so going into Wrath stance early can be quite a bad thing to do. For example, I would not go into Wrath stance here. Going into Wrath would allow me to just destroy this left slime immediately, but that would mean the right slime is doing 20 damage, which is much more than I can block, especially after spending 2 energy on Eruption. So going into Wrath early can be bad, but you are basically thinking during every turn, and really the turn before every turn, when can I switch over? When do I go into win the battle now mode, which is playing Eruption or playing something that gets you into Wrath and destroying all the enemies very quickly. This one is a time that I would not go into Wrath. I think going into Wrath on the first turn would net us 10 damage, definitely, and that's 10 damage that we do not have to take in this battle. So that means the other cards that we're playing are obvious. What's not obvious is whether we attack the small slime or the big slime. I think attacking the small slime is perfectly fine. It prevents the small slime from attacking in a future turn. So let's do that now. We did get a slimed card. I consider these status cards to be annoying, but only annoying. Slimed is not that bad. It can be much worse though, especially if you get lots of them. Now, the other thing to think about is Calm. I certainly want to go into Calm at some point because that means more energy when we go into Wrath. So exiting Calm gives us 2 energy. Going into Wrath means that we're exiting Calm. Going into Wrath currently costs us 2 energy. That means that playing Vigilance before playing Eruption essentially makes the Eruption free the turn that you play it. With 4 energy, that's much less of a thing though, so I don't think that we need to go into Calm when nothing's attacking us so we don't get the benefit of the block. Instead, we can certainly kill this slime, And dealing this one some damage means that an eruption would deal 9 damage, and a strike after the eruption does 12 damage. That means that we only need eruption and 1 strike to win the battle. We did not get those things. So in this circumstance, all characters, but especially the Watcher, benefit from you planning ahead to the next turn. So I could do 12 damage now, which would mean one attack would win next turn. However, I'm guaranteed to draw at least 2 attacks next turn. And I have 4 energy, so if I play 1 attack, we're guaranteed to win next turn, and that means that we get to block as much as possible. We are still taking 1 damage because we're frail, but it means that we guaranteed win this turn, and we took as little damage as possible this fight. Alright, now for the time that we add a card to our deck. Now before we do this, for 1, our boss is the Guardian, but for 2, just like I did in the first one of these Overexplained streams, let's philosophize about what we're trying to do when we add a card to our deck. So, in order to do that, let me pull out my trusty sheet. So right now, we know that we're fighting the Guardian, so we can just immediately take the Slime Boss and the Hexaghost off of our grid. Now, what we're trying to do in Slay the Spire is solve all of the battles. In particular, the battles that are coming up right now. The way that this sheet is laid out, we've got our Act 1 boss at the top, our 3 Act 1 elites in the middle, and then a representation of the different normal enemies that we can fight in Act 1. Your first 3 normal enemy battles are going to be from this pool, and the rest of your normal enemy battles are going to come from a harder pool of enemies. So, I want to make sure that we can defeat everything that's coming up. With the Watcher, I think that the Gremlin Knob, with our starting deck, we can basically defeat that. No problem. Gremlin Knob with the starting deck, we're good. You know what? That is a terrible, terrible checkmark. I'm going to try that again. Let's try making a checkmark that looks a little bit more like a checkmark. There we go. There we go. Checkmark for the Gremlin Knob. We can defeat the Gremlin Knob with our starting deck. For that matter, we can also pretty easily defeat the Sentries with the starting deck. The main problem with the Sentries is being able to defeat one of them quickly, which the Watcher is good at. The Sentries are more problematic than the Gremlin Knob, but not by much. The Lagavulin, also, the Watcher is pretty decent at. For one, when the Lagavulin is sleeping, is the perfect time to play your Calm card, and then play Wrath with a bunch of strikes right after that. In a turn where the Lagavulin is still sleeping, you can get a lot of damage very quickly, and ensure that you're going into Calm before the Lagavulin attacks you. And Eleanor, welcome to the stream. So, I think that we are okay. I'm going to put an O there, because we're okay at the Lagavulin. We're not great. It would be good to make us better. The normal enemies, we've got the first few normal enemies, no problem. The rest of the normal enemies, in Act 1, you really want to be able to do damage quickly. Mostly, we have a problem with these, the multi-enemy fights. The Watcher is not great at the multi-enemy fights. However, the Watcher is quite good at all the rest. So, the Watcher actually has a very good scorecard already with the starting deck. That means we don't need a lot of changes. The Guardian is a little bit of a problem. We need to be able to reliably block for the Guardian, so we're going to put a little O there. We're okay at it, but not great at it. So when I'm thinking about what do I do for the Watcher, how do I change my deck for the Watcher, I'm usually not thinking about Act 1. I'm really thinking about Act 2. So in Act 2, these are the problems that we have. Now the main thing to point out about Act 2 is that there are a lot of multi-enemy fights. For example, this cultist down here represents a multi-enemy fight. The Taskmaster is a multi-enemy fight. The Gremlin Gremlin Leader is a multi-enemy fight. Also, the birds are a multi-enemy fight. And the Looter and the Mugger are a multi-enemy fight. Also, these characters appear in multi-enemy fights. The Watcher's not great at that. So, let's move back to the game and actually pick a card. So, when I'm trying to pick a card, I am really thinking about what do I need to be better in Act 2. Now, I'll tell you right off that this is not what I wanted to see. I see Tranquility, which is, it has Retain, it's a good way to enter Calm, that's a good way to be able to get out of Wrath, but you know what? It doesn't help us too much right now. Pressure points. I love pressure points. Far too much. Far too much. The main problem with pressure points is, see this mark? The only thing that applies mark is pressure points, which is a problem because you're not guaranteed to find pressure points in card packs. Taking it as the first one is better than taking it later, but still, building a pressure points deck is a hard thing to do. It also doesn't take advantage of Wrath. The Wrath and Calm switch over, pressure points is not affected by that. Indignation is another way to enter Wrath. It can be quite good, especially because we have more energy, but currently it doesn't do very much for us. So right now, don't really like any of these options. I really would have liked to have a damage card, some card that deals damage, or a card that helps us in some way against multi-enemy fights. One that deals damage to multiple enemies, or something. Something that helps us with fights where we need to block more. Still, of these three, I think I take Indignation. Getting into Wrath is very good. Also, Vulnerable with the Watcher is much better than it normally is, with most characters. With most characters, you're thinking of Vulnerable as if I would normally do 8 damage with an attack, I do 50% more, so I do 12 damage. With the Watcher, what you're thinking is, if I normally do 8 damage with an attack, if I can get into Wrath and apply Vulnerable, then I do 24 damage with that attack. It basically adds one extra multiplier. Wrath doubles, Wrath plus Vulnerable triples. So Vulnerable can be quite nice. It can be somewhat hard to get into, though. You need Indignation, but you also need to be in Wrath in the first point. So, we're definitely going to take Indignation. However, we need something more. We need a better attack. We need to probably get rid of one of these defend cards. The shop. So, remember this is going to be our possibly the only chance that we have to spend our money, because we don't get any extra money. There's a couple things that immediately my eye goes to here. One of them is Bowling Bash. Like I said, the Watcher is not great in multi-enemy fights, and Bowling Bash helps. Bowling Bash is surprisingly good. So let's compare Bowling Bash to, and I can't think of the name of the Ironclad card off the top of my head, but it's an Ironclad card that deals 8 damage to all enemies. In a multi-enemy fight, if you deal 8 damage to all enemies, you get extra damage than you would in a normal fight. Bowling Bash, you also get extra damage than you would in a normal fight, but all of that extra damage is going to one enemy. So you might be able to kill one of the enemies outright, which reduces the total damage that you are taking. You see, dealing 8 damage, if you deal 8 damage to one enemy, good. If you deal 8 damage to multiple enemies, that's better, but the other enemies that you hit the damage with doesn't really matter until you're able to kill those enemies, which doesn't happen until after you kill the first one. So being able to target down one enemy is much better than dealing spread damage. That's why Bowling Bash is so good. It's even better because it's in a character that already struggles with the multi-enemy fights. So, we're going to buy Bowling Bash. There's 2 others that catch my eye. One is Mental Fortress. I find the Watcher to be difficult to find good block cards with. Mental Fortress is a way to add lots of block if you can change stances a lot. So that's quite nice. It's also on sale. That doesn't really matter because if you take 37 off of what we already have, you get, what is that, 15? And 15 gold is not really going to get us anything. So this being on sale doesn't help us, except that we can afford it right now. Empty Body is a pretty decent block card, especially if you already have Mental Fortress. Third Eye is an excellent block card because that Scry 3 can be really good. Helps you plan out future turns. I think that Scry is a very good ability in the Watcher card pool. It's not something that I think you should build a deck around, but it's definitely something that you should include a few cards that give you that ability. I believe I will choose Mental Fortress because it's one of the few ways in the Watcher card pool to generate lots of block very quickly. We don't have a deck that it works for yet, but we've got some time to get there. And getting the uncommon card rather than one of the common cards is also kind of nice because we're less likely to see this one in the future. So let's take it. Now we've spent all the money that we're going to spend in this run. Unless we find something that only costs 15. Now, we don't have a deck that we really want. We want to see more card rewards, which means going to a battle, not an event. No questions here, we just have 3 attacks, we're not being attacked. Bowling Bash, still better than a strike, although just barely. And here is an excellent question. When you're the Watcher, one of the questions that you have to ask, especially when you have Eruption in your hand, is, can I win this turn? It's surprising how often the answer is yes. So, I only have 2 strikes. This has 32 health. However, I can go into Wrath and I have 4 energy. So we could go 9 damage, plus 12 damage, plus 12 damage. That adds up to 33. Already more than this guy's health. It's not very often that you can defeat a normal enemy on turn 2 with mostly your starting deck, but that's what the Watcher can do. We don't get the gold because of Ectoplasm. We do get the Power Potion. I like a Power Potion. Sometimes it's hard to decide when to use the Power Potion, but I like the Power Potion. So Consecrate is another good multi-enemy attack, something to deal with multiple enemies. Protect is a surprisingly bad block card. So when I see Protect, I have taken this card many times because it looks good to me. Having something that gives you 12 block is pretty good. That's more than the 5 or 7 or 8 that you get from other cards. And the fact that it has Retain seems perfect for a block card because you don't need the block until you need it. So having Retain on the card means that you get to keep the card in your hand until you need it. But it turns out that paying 2 energy for 12 block is just not good enough. And the upgrade is also not great. It adds 4 block, which only adds 2 per energy that you spend. That's a worse upgrade in general than an upgrade to a defend card, which gives you 3 more block and it only costs 1 energy. So it turns out that Protect seems to not be a great card. If I'm picking between Consecrate and Bowling Bash, I'm probably choosing Bowling Bash. Part of the reason I'm choosing Bowling Bash is because we already have extra energy. So that 0 cost card we don't need as much. And like I said, focusing down one enemy in a multi-enemy fight is better than hitting all of them. So let's take another Bowling Bash. We've got 2 Bowling Bashes in the deck now. Probably as much as we want to have. The Face Trader. Alright. So, number 1. Touching his face is terrible when you have the ectoplasm. So touch we're not going to choose. Sometimes touching his face is fine. I usually like to trade. So the game tells you that this is a 50% good face, 50% bad face, which is not quite true. It's actually, there's 1 neutral face. And so there's an equal number of bad faces and good faces, and 1 neutral face. For the Watcher, I tend to think this is only okay. However, I probably will choose it. I really like getting relics. This is a chance to get a good relic. It's also a chance to get a bad one. One of the ones that we could get is weakness on the first turn. That's pretty bad. One of the ones that we can get gives us maximum health after every battle, which is really good. So, in the end, I think that the good faces are enough better than the bad faces that this tends to be a good gamble, even though it's a 50-50. Let's try it. Ho-ho, we got exactly the one that I wanted. So Face of Cleric, at the end of combat, raise your max HP by 1. That is wonderful to get, especially so early. We're on floor 4, and at the end of every combat, we raise our max HP by 1. And remember, in Slay the Spire, when you raise your max HP, you also raise your current HP. So we got rather lucky there, but I think we made the right gamble. We just also got really lucky with the right gamble. A shop. A shop is pretty worthless to us. There's even a mental fortress, again on sale, but we can't afford anything. So finding a shop in the question mark room was quite uneventful. So, almost all the time, I would much rather smith than rest. Smithing makes your deck stronger. Resting does not. Resting just gives you health. Getting health will allow you to get through some of the next fights, some of the immediately oncoming troubles, but we think that we're fine with the current oncoming troubles. Smithing allows us to get through the later troubles. So I almost always would choose smith over rest, unless I really need the rest, and we certainly don't need it now. Recall, if you're going to use the recall, you do it in Act 3. Don't do a recall in a fireplace in Act 1. There's no point. So, there's a few options here. Let me go over the different options. Strike, not a good option. Strikes, we would rather have out of the deck. Not that we're going to be able to do that, but we would rather have them out of the deck rather than upgrade a basic strike. Defend adds 3 block, that's not bad. We might choose to upgrade defends, but not yet. We really want damage in Act 1. Eruption, reducing this to 1 energy is really good. That's a significant upgrade on Eruption, and since we do want to get into Wrath, putting one reduced energy cost on the way to get into Wrath in our starting deck is quite a good one. Vigilance, it has the same problem as the the block card that we passed by, that you're paying 2 for an increase of 4 block, which means you're only getting 2 more block per energy. But the thing is, you're going to play Vigilance anyway, because you need to enter Calm sometimes. So if you're going to play it anyway, it's a little bit better for it to be good. Indignation, the 5 vulnerable, not that significant. Applying 5 vulnerable is nice and all, but if the battle takes long enough for you to use 5 vulnerable, you might not be doing it right. Bowling Bash. This is a significant upgrade, because remember, the 3 extra damage is for every enemy in the combat. So a strike adds 3 extra damage, a strike upgrade adds 3 extra damage. The Bowling Bash upgrade adds 3 extra damage times the number of enemies in the fight. Much more significant. Mental Fortress. This is a pretty significant upgrade. However, we don't need it currently. Block is not our current problem. So let's upgrade Bowling Bash or Eruption. After all of that, I am choosing Bowling Bash. Partially that's because we have extra energy. Partially that's because we already have an Indignation in the deck, which allows us to get into Wrath for 1. We just have more ways to get into Wrath than you normally would at this point in the game. So let's do an attack upgrade. Alright, these enemies tend to be very easy to defeat when you're in Wrath. We aren't in Wrath currently, so we could play Defends. However, Vigilance blocks for everything and puts us into Calm, so playing a Vigilance is strictly better than playing 2 Defends here. It also blocks everything, so there we go. Now there's no reason to play the Defends. We would have gotten extra block if we had played Mental Fortress first. However, no reason to. We only need 8 block. Good to play the power first too, and then the strike. One of the things that I see with newer players in Slay the Spire is usually you strike the thing that's attacking you. And, you know, on some visceral level that seems correct, but it's usually not. Don't think about hitting the thing that's attacking you unless you can kill that thing this turn. Think about the next turn. So this one is buffing itself, which means I would much rather this one be dead next turn than this one be dead next turn. So let's strike the one that's buffing itself, not the one that's attacking us. Alright, lots of ways to win this one. Let's go with Eruption. So one of the things about where we are right now, which is a normal thing with the Watcher, is that we're in Calm, which basically makes Eruption free. Because when we exit Calm, we gain 2 energy, Eruption costs 2 energy. So we can do this, and we still have 4 energy, which means we could also play Indignation, add Vulnerable, and we could also play all 3 of these strikes. You can see how the Watcher can dish out a lot more damage than is necessary. We can deal how much damage? 18, 36, 54. We can deal 54 damage right now, in addition to what we've already done in this battle. That is much more than this little louse has. Now there is another pressure points there. That would have been nice, potentially. However, we did not take the first pressure points, which makes this pressure points much worse. However, you can kind of see that if we took that first pressure points, finding the second one would be very significant. However, we didn't fall for that. We didn't fall into that potential trap, so we're not here gaining the benefits from it. But let me tell you how much I wish we had fallen into it. Because I love pressure points. I love building pressure points decks. They deal so much damage so fast if you can get 3 upgraded pressure points in your deck, and you don't need to have any other attack cards. You just add things that give you block, things that make enemies not kill you. and then you just kill all of them really fast with pressure points. However, we're not there. I wish I was there, but we're not there. The Wreath of Flame. Wreath of Flame is pretty bad. Now, it's not terrible. It probably looks worse than it is. The next attack deals 5 additional damage. Now, if you think of this as, compare it to a strike. If you play this, and then you play a strike, it's worse playing the Wreath of Flame than it would have been to play another strike. It only added 5 damage. Strikes add 6 damage. The 5 additional damage does get doubled when you're in Wrath. The other thing about Wreath of Flame that is kind of a nice thing is that it goes over the turn barrier, so it's not the next attack this turn, it's the next attack in this battle. So you can play Wreath of Flame one turn, and then you can wait until you're in Wrath, if you have a way to get into Wrath that's not an attack, to actually dish out the extra damage. The other thing that's good about Wreath of Flame is attacks that deal damage multiple times, like Bowling Bash. So Bowling Bash gets extra benefit if it's hitting multiple times from Wreath of Flame, because it's getting that attack multiple times. However, I still don't like Wreath of Flame very much. It's just okay. Mental Fortress, we already have one. They do get better in multiples. Probably not more than 2, unless you have a deck that changes stances all the time. We don't quite have that yet, but I do want to build a deck like that. So I am going to take another Mental Fortress, but recall that this is probably the last one. The Shining Light. Remember how I said whenever I go into a rest site, I really like upgrading cards instead of healing? Well, this is basically that. So you are choosing to lose health, about as much health as you would lose from not healing once. Recall that previously I did not heal, so I didn't get 8 health. And that's only because we're this low. Normally we would get more than 8. So I chose to not get 8 health in order to upgrade 1 card. So why wouldn't I lose 15 health to upgrade 2 cards? As long as you're not dying soon, this is a good option. With our Face of the Cleric, we're already in a good position in terms of health. And you know, there is a fireplace there. If we really need it, there's a fireplace here. So I say we do it. 2 random cards is not as good. Remember that we have a couple upgrades we don't care about, such as Indignation. However, we mostly have upgrades that we would like. So let's click it. Mental Fortress and a Strike. I don't mind that. The Mental Fortress isn't doing much yet, but the Strike is. Extra 3 damage on the Strike means that it's an extra 6 damage if we're in Wrath. Alright, our first chest. Happy Flower. Every 3 turns we gain an energy. Very nice. I like the Happy Flower. Happy Flower can be... So one thing about the Happy Flower that's not obvious is that this is not every 3 turns in a battle. It's every 3 turns in your run. So if you don't use the Happy Flower in one battle, if a battle only takes 2 turns, it's not that you have to have a 3-turn battle for it to matter. You can have a series of 2-turn battles, and every 3rd turn across those battles, you get the extra energy. So Happy Flower is quite nice. It's kind of 1/3 of the benefit of Ectoplasm. Also, you can see that we've got 2 energy relics. That means that upgrading Eruption is even less important than it normally is. Lagavulin. So, the Lagavulin fight. Lagavulin is an elite that has a whole bunch of health. However, it starts off the battle sleeping. Until you deal it damage, particularly damage above its block. So, what that means is when you go into the Lagavulin fight, the thing that you should think about is how can I set up before I start dealing damage? Before waking up the beast, let me prepare to fight the beast. For that matter, we will not be playing Bowling Bash this turn, because playing Bowling Bash would wake it up, and there are some things we could do to set up first. For example, we could play Mental Fortress, we could play Vigilance and this Mental Fortress, and getting all of the powers out of the way first could be really nice. Also, ensuring that we can get out of Wrath if we go into Wrath when waking it up is probably a good plan. So, Vigilance and Mental Fortress, but not the Bowling Bash because we're preparing. This is also a really good fight to play a power potion. I'm not going to play it in this fight because I don't think we need it. So we'll use it in a fight that we might need it. However, this is also a really good fight for power potions or powers in general. So here's another place where we could play Mental Fortress. And now we're still setting up. Bowling Bash is here, but if we played Bowling Bash, it wouldn't do anything unless we also played Strike, and then we would wake the beast up. We don't really care about waking the beast up. Also, our next turn is quite an amazing turn. We're going to be dealing a lot of damage next turn. So we're going to put off waking the beast until next turn. So I said that we're doing lots of damage this turn. The reason for that is Eruption and Indignation. Another bit that I think about with the Watcher. So, if I can't win this turn, the other question to ask is, how likely am I to win next turn, especially when the enemy is not attacking me this turn? So Eruption does 9 damage. That essentially does 1 damage to Lagavulin. The Indignation makes it vulnerable. That means that we're going to be doing 3 times as much damage as we currently can do with strikes. So, strikes, we get 12 damage plus the 9, that's 21, times 3 is 63 damage. 63 is a lot of damage. Now, we don't have a guarantee that we'll be able to block the following turn, but the chance of us winning the following turn is actually pretty high. So I'm definitely going to do this. There is a chance for this to slightly backfire, for us to take more damage than we'd be comfortable with in this battle. However, we're doing so much damage right now that it's probably worth it, with the concept that we're probably going to win this turn. So, I said we're probably going to win this turn. Eruption does 27 damage. Bowling Bash does 21. You know what that means? Lagavulin is dead, and we did not take a lick of damage. 26 gold does nothing. Darkstone Periap, not a great relic. If you have to gain a curse, it's great for it to come with 6 max HP, but for the most part you don't want to obtain curses. So having a relic that makes it better to obtain a curse, it's still not good to obtain a curse in most circumstances. So you have to get a bunch of benefits to getting curses before these relics actually add up to something. Still, it's free, we take it. Liquid Memories, I do really like this potion. This potion is so much better on the Watcher than it is with most characters. And that's because if a Wrath entry or a Calm entry is in your discard pile, then Liquid Memories can get you out of a bind, where you want to go into Wrath and defeat an enemy, or if you want to get out of Wrath so you don't take too much damage. Liquid Memories is a good potion on the Watcher. Okay, some interesting stuff here. Wish. Wish can be amazing. It costs 3, and the turn that you play it, it's not that great. However, being able to get 25 gold repeatedly is quite good. Not so great when you can't get the gold. The 6-plated armor and the 3 strength can be really good for longer fights. Remember that any point of strength in the Watcher affects you twice when you're in Wrath. Still, the Wish can be really good, particularly because you can gain gold every time you are in an easy battle. Deva Form is really cool. It is one of the strongest energy gain cards in the game, because you gain 1 energy the turn after you play it, you gain 2 energy the turn after that, 3 energy the turn after that. It does cost 3 to play, which is painful, but in a long battle, this can be absurd amounts of energy gain. I don't know that our current deck cares, especially with 2 energy relics already, and no way to draw cards. We don't really care. However, it's so strong. Empty Fist. Empty Fist is a very nice attack. It's a common card, it's a pretty basic attack card. However, it does 9 damage, which is the amount that an upgraded strike does. If you upgrade it, it does 14 damage. Adding plus 5 damage to a 1 energy card on an upgrade is an amazing upgrade. One of the best upgrades in the game, honestly. Especially for a basic attack card. Also, the fact that you can exit your stance, sort of at will if you play Empty Fist, means that you can gain extra energy from exiting Calm, or you can get out of Wrath stance. And recall that you do the damage first, so you deal lots of damage and you get out of Wrath. So you deal the double damage, and then you don't take the double damage. Also, this is very good in our deck, because we've got 2 mental fortresses. Exiting your stance counts as changing stances, which means playing Empty Fist will also net us block if we've got Mental Fortress in play and we're in a stance. So, even though we're being shown 2 quite nice rare cards, I'm taking the basic common card. The Looter. One of the most unfortunate things about Ectoplasm is that the Looter and the Mugger exist. Let me explain. The Looter steals 15 gold whenever it attacks. If you defeat the Looter, then you get to steal that gold back. Unless you have no way that you can obtain gold. If you can't obtain gold, then whatever the Looter steals is permanently gone. So unfortunately for us, this Looter is definitely getting away with our money. Unless we can defeat it on turn 1. Can we defeat it on turn 1? Always a good question with the Watcher. We've got 2 lines that we could deal damage with. We could deal 9 damage, then we could give vulnerable, and then we could deal essentially 30 damage with Bowling Bash. So that would be 39 damage. That is close to the Looter's max health, but it is not the Looter's health. The other option is to play Indignation first. That means we get double damage from the Eruption and double damage from the Bowling Bash, but we don't get the triple damage from any card. That would give us 20 from the Bowling Bash and 18 from the Eruption. That would be dealing 38 damage. Notice how close those 2 numbers are. 39 damage and 38 damage. It's hard to choose whether to take the vulnerable or just the Wrath sometimes with Indignation. But in any event, we're not killing this enemy, not this turn. So the real question is, do we go into Wrath at all? Because Wrath we would be taking double damage, which is bad for us. And I say the answer is no. let's preserve our health, which means we're playing defend, defend, and then we're ignoring the 2 ways that we can enter Wrath. Remember, doing that on the first turn is often a bad idea, and just playing Bowling Bash. We do take the 1 damage. However, we can pretty easily block this turn. It's important to play the Mental Fortress first. Mental Fortress first and then Vigilance means that we gain 14 block instead of just 8. And then we still have enough energy to do 2 attacks. And then we could have known what our next turn was if we had looked at our deck, aside from that strike. If we put Mental Fortress out, then when we play Empty Fist, we gain 10 block. So that's nice. Gain 10 block right there. And that means that we can block fully this turn. And we certainly have enough damage because we knew that strike was in the deck to win. So see this 15 gold? We can try to steal it back, and we don't get it because of Ectoplasm. So our gold is completely gone. 3 interesting cards here. Battle Hymn gives you a smite card. It's an excellent way to gain attack over time. The smite cards are quite good, 1 energy for 12 damage, but the most important thing is they have retain on them. The retain means that you don't play them until you get into Wrath. So Battle Hymn can be a lot of damage, but it takes time to build up. Wave of the Hand is very interesting because it's one of the few ways to add weakness in the Watcher card pool. However, it adds a lot of weakness whenever you gain block this turn, which if you have multiple instances that you gain block, especially if you happen to have something like Mental Fortress in your deck, then you can apply this 1 weak multiple times. That really stacks up quickly. And since you're applying it separate instances, an enemy that has an artifact charge that prevents a debuff, you are removing an artifact charge every time you apply the 1 weak. It also has a good upgrade, upgrading to applying 2 weak. I think that Wave of the Hand is one of the most important cards to have in your deck when you're going up against the Corrupt Heart with the Watcher. So I'm definitely taking it. It does mean that our deck is steering a lot more towards defense than I would really want this early. We've already taken Mental Fortress and Mental Fortress, and we're taking another defensive card now. However, man, this is a strong one, and it helps in a lot of instances. So we're going to take this. We've talked about Consecrate before. I think with 2 Bowling Bashes in our deck, we really don't benefit a whole lot from Consecrate, and with the Ectoplasm and the Happy Flower. So, let's take a Wave of the Hand. Alright, Gremlin Knob. Gremlin Knob is not too bad. We've got 5 energy. So one of the things that we can do... So, Gremlin Knob is going to buff itself so that every time we play a skill, he gains strength, which means playing skills the first turn is the best turn to play the skills, and you don't really want to play skills after that turn. What's really nice here is we kind of drew the skills first. If we play Wave of the Hand, so block, the defend is kind of pointless except with Wave of the Hand. If we play Wave of the Hand first, which we're definitely going to do, because there'd be no reason to play defend without it, so that means that we're already spending our energy if we play the Wave of the Hand. Now, the choices here are play Mental Fortress, Vigilance, or Mental Fortress, Defend, Vigilance. Mental Fortress even though they're two different powers that you played, you only get one instance where you're adding block. So the Wave of the Hand only gets affected once, even though you've played two Mental Fortresses. However, it would be played twice because we also gain block from Vigilance. So if we play Mental Fortress, Vigilance, we would be applying 2 weakness to Gremlin Knob, and have both powers out, and we'd be in Calm. The other choice is playing Mental Fortress, Vigilance, Defend, which is a separate instance of gaining block. So we would give Gremlin Knob 3 weak instead of 2 weak, at the cost of not getting 4 block in a future turn. I think I more highly prioritize the future block. Being able to get 10 block out of playing attacks, I think is better than getting 1 extra turn of weakness. So we're going to do it this way. 2 weakness on the Gremlin Knob, which means he's weak next turn. And here is where, if we gain 10 block because we've switched stances, the Gremlin Knob would be doing 12 damage, so we would only take 2 damage if we switch to Wrath stance, which is quite nice. That means that switching to Wrath stance is not bad. Also, we want to switch to Wrath stance and kill the Gremlin Knob, hopefully next turn. So let's play Eruption. And then we still have enough to play all of these cards. Bowling Bash, Strike, Strike, and then we have to decide. So Defend would add 2 strength to the Gremlin Knob, which, because we're taking double damage, is kind of like the Gremlin Knob doing 4 more damage. So the Gremlin Knob could either do 2 damage to us this turn, or if we play Defend, we end up actually only blocking for 1 extra this turn, and next turn is more scary. So the only reason to play Defend this turn is if we kind of guarantee a victory next turn. Now, the worst thing that we could draw next turn is 2 Defends and 2 Strikes, and I don't know if the Indignation is worse or better than something else. If we drew 3 attacks next turn, would we always win? So we're doing double damage, so yes. These 2 themselves would deal 30 damage, which means either one of these would win. If we drew the Indignation and our worst 2 attacks, these 2 would be doing triple damage, which means they would do 45 damage, and that means we also win. So we're guaranteed to draw enough to win next turn, which means gaining the 1 block from Defend is better than not, even though we're adding 2 strength. Oh, you know what? I forgot to factor in weakness. The fact that our enemy is weak, doing 25% less damage, means that even though we added 2 strength, which is 4 additional attack because we're in Wrath, the 25% less means that only added 3. Which means we take no damage, and then we definitely win. Alright, Ornamental Fan. An excellent relic. Gives you 4 block every time you play 3 attacks in a turn. With our current deck, this is only okay because we really are only ever able to play 3 attacks in a turn. We just don't draw enough cards to cause that to be any different. So it can only give us 4 block, but it gives us 4 block at no cost, at the cost of dealing more damage to enemies, which you want to do anyway. It can be quite a lot better if we can get a deck that draws cards. Meditate is another way to enter Calm. Pray is a way to enter Divinity Stance. Divinity Stance is extremely strong. You deal 3 times damage, and you gain 3 energy when you enter it. However, it's pretty hard to enter. With one prey, it would take us playing prey 4 times before we enter Divinity Stance. And Divinity Stance only happens for 1 turn. The insight into your deck is kind of weird. The insight retains, which is nice. But the weird thing about shuffling an insight card in your deck is that it costs you 1 draw to draw that insight card. And so when you play it, you're not gaining 2 draw, you have really only gained 1 draw. And since you also played, you had to draw prey, it's kind of like the prey is draw neutral. So prey means that you had to spend 2 draws to draw prey in insight, and you get those 2 draws back with insight. It's a weird bit of math that I think is important to think about when you're considering prey. Sash Whip, one of the other ways to apply weakness to enemies in the Watcher card pool, much less strong than the one that we already have, the Wave of the Hand. It is an attack, and it's very easy to make it work, because all you have to do is have played an attack before it. That's easy to do. I would normally probably take Sash Whip somewhat highly. However, we already have the ability to add lots of weak to enemies, so I don't know that I care that much about adding another effect that adds weakness. In contrast, adding another way to get into Calm is quite good, because our 2 Mental Fortresses give us block when we do that. It gets out of Wrath, which could be very good. And since we have 2 ways to get into Wrath, it's kind of nice to have 2 ways to get out of Wrath. And putting a card from your discard pile into your hand and retain it, that's really strong. The one very significant downside to Meditate is that it ends your turn. When you play Meditate, it ends your turn, which means it needs to be the last thing that you play. That's not terrible unless you forget. However, the other downside to that is you can't really use multiple effects that end your turn. I can think of 3, I think there's 3 different Watcher cards that end your turn when you play them, and you can't play all of them. You can only play one of those in a turn because it ends your turn. So you have to be a little bit careful of how many end your turn effects you add to your deck. This is our first one, and it really works with the deck that we're building, so we're taking it. We still have not taken much damage. In fact, the most damage we've taken was from an event where we took 15 damage ourselves. So let's smith again. There's a lot of good options here. A lot of good options. I mentioned Empty Fist before. That 5 extra damage is one of the best upgrades in the game. Wave of the Hand, very significant upgrade, adding 2 weak instead of 1 weak. And Meditate, adding 2 cards instead of 1 card, is basically like drawing 2 cards for next turn. So all of those are very nice. I've got to go with what I've said before, though, and say Empty Fist is one of the strongest upgrades in the game. Let's take that extra 5 damage that is sometimes an extra 10 and sometimes an extra 15 if we're in Wrath and the enemy's vulnerable. Alright, the sentries. The sentries are fine. With the Watcher, I think the sentries aren't so bad. It can be bad if the fight takes a while, but really with the Watcher, you don't have to have battles take a while. We have 5 energy, which means we can play all but one of our cards. In particular, if we play Mental Fortress and Vigilance this turn, then we don't need to play Defend, because we already block for 12. So we don't need to play Defend, which means we're playing the rest of the cards. Now for the tricky part about playing the Watcher. It's usually very important the order that you play your cards in. It would be a mistake, for example, to play Mental Fortress Vigilance first, because we also want to play Empty Fist. And we don't want to exit our Calm stance this turn. So play the Empty Fist before you play Vigilance. Usually the way that I approach the Sentry's battle, which, I mean, it's usually the right way, is to focus down one of the left or right ones, usually the one that has the least health, defeat that one first. The reason we go for the left or right one is that those two attack together. So if you kill the middle one first, then there will be turns that you're getting attacked by two different enemies, and it's hard to block two different enemies attacking you, where it's relatively easy to block if they're alternating, one enemy attacking you every turn. So go for the left or right sentry first, and usually it's best to do the one that has the least health, because you can defeat that one faster. Maybe the same, but at least you are almost certain you can defeat that one faster. So Empty Fist, Strike, Mental Fortress, and Vigilance. Blocks for everything, and puts this one in range of us killing it. Indignation could allow us to enter Wrath. Entering Wrath can be dangerous, of course, because this sentry would be doing double damage. Now, if we don't enter Wrath, we can only deal 15 damage. So dealing 15 damage doesn't kill this one. So the choices are really don't enter Wrath, have 20 damage coming in, or enter Wrath, kill one, and still have 20 damage coming in, with the side benefit that we gain 4 more block. So there's an obvious answer there once I've spelled it out, but maybe it was not so obvious until I spelled it out. So enter Wrath. I mean, the other reason not to enter Wrath is that if you can't exit Wrath next turn, it could be bad. But we have a way to exit Wrath next turn. We have 2 ways to easily kill an enemy. And we have a Liquid Memories to get us out of a bind if we drew really poorly. So that's the other consideration, but I knew we were okay on that one. Also, entering Wrath means we can play the rest of our cards. So, this one does 18 damage, this one does 12 damage. That's 30 damage. Not enough to kill the one with the most health, so we are going to be wasting some damage here, but not too much. And we take our 6 damage. Instead of what we would have taken, we would have taken 10. So Bowling Bash does 14, well, this Bowling Bash does 20 damage twice because there's 2 enemies in combat. So that one immediately kills this one if we play it. And then this Bowling Bash does 28 damage. Did I do that right? Yes, 28 damage versus 40 damage. It's a lot different. Now, I could play this one, kill this one outright. However, it's much better to play this one first, deal the extra 14 damage to this one, and then play this one to kill this one. The other thing to do here, I'm going to play Wave of the Hand. And actually, there's no reason to, because the Eruption wins. Let me tell you what I was thinking, though. This is an Overexplained run after all. I could have played Wave of the Hand and Meditate, guaranteed that I could win next turn. And because the Meditate changes our stance, we would gain block. Because we gain block, we would deal 1 weakness, which would remove this artifact charge, which would have been good if we couldn't just win this turn, which we can. So let's win this turn instead. Akabeko, the first attack each combat deals 8 additional damage. That can be really strong when you have something that does damage multiple times, like Bowling Bash. It's kind of unfortunate with the Watcher because it's hard to get Wrath stance with the Akabeko effect, because you need a way to get into Wrath that is not an attack in order to get the Akabeko to take effect while you're in Wrath. We can do that with Indignation, but our other way to enter Wrath, it doesn't work. So Akabeko is quite good. Strength Potion, as I mentioned before, Strength with the Watcher, when you're in Wrath, kind of doubles the effect of Strength, so that's quite good. Okay. Wreath of Flame we've already talked about. Prostrate. Gaining 2 mantra is not bad. Gaining 4 block, not bad. 2 very small effects, but it's on a 0 cost card, which can be really good if you're able to draw cards. We're not really able to do that. However, Prostrate I consider to be a good general card, and it's a good way to take your first card that gives you mantra, because this card is generally a good thing to have in your deck, and once you have one thing that gives you mantra, the rest of the things that give you mantra become much more effective. So Prostrate is usually a good way to get into a deck that builds up mantra, taking Prostrate first. However, unfortunately, that's not where we are. We are in a deck that really likes to switch between Calm and Wrath a lot, rather than building up mantra for Divinity. And for that matter, Empty Body is quite good. Empty Body is another way to change stances, which invokes our mental fortresses. It also invokes Wave of the Hand, because it gains block on its own. That's good. It also is a better block card than most block cards. So I think this is quite nice, Empty Body. The one problem that we have now is we have 2 cards, Empty Body and Empty Fist, that exit our stance. And we should be careful not to add too many of those. Exiting your stance is good, but exiting your stance multiple times is not helpful unless you can get back into a stance and then also exit that one. So too many exit your stance cards can be not the best. All right, we are yet again in a situation where we have plenty of health, in my opinion. So let's smith yet again. So at this point, I'm really thinking about what's coming up. The Guardian fight is coming up. I think our deck is perfectly fine against the Guardian fight. The Guardian, and you know what? While I'm doing this, let me point at the Guardian. We've got a picture that I can point at. So the Guardian, which is the Act 1 boss, the Guardian is a fight in which you want to switch between dealing damage and gaining block. Our deck is not amazing at that, but we do have a good amount of block in our deck. Of the 3 Act 1 bosses, Slime Boss you really want to have lots of ways to gain attack, to deal damage quickly. Hexaghost you really want to be able to deal damage quickly. And the Guardian you want to be able to block and deal damage. So the Guardian is one of the Act 1 bosses that really tests you to build a blocking deck versus an attacking deck. We didn't really think about that too much while we were building our deck, but we ended up kind of building one anyway. So we are good to fight the Guardian. And let's go back to this. I clicked the wrong thing, so we're going to have to wait for this to see the game again. Come on. Let me see the game. Sometimes it takes a minute. Sometimes it doesn't take this long, though. That's kind of what I get for clicking the wrong thing, but let's try to cause it to see the game again. So click back, click back. There we go. All right. All right, back to smithing. So, what do we want in terms of our smith? Eruption would be good, except that we kind of don't need the extra energy right now. Bowling Bash is another good attack card to upgrade. Wave of the Hand is a great defensive card to upgrade. Meditate is a great card for essentially being draw, because you kind of draw 2 cards with it. 2 very specific cards, which is quite good. And Empty Body is a fine upgrade. It's a good block card. Adding 3 additional block is a very basic upgrade. It's the same upgrade that you would get from upgrading a defend. So I think what our deck lacks the most right now is card draw. So I'm going to pick Meditate, because it's kind of our only card draw card. Alright, into the Guardian fight. We do have all of these potions. I might not use any of them, though. I might not. So we do have the extra 8 damage from Akabeko, and we do have Bowling Bash, but there's only 1 enemy, so kind of does nothing. We have 5 energy again. Happy Flower has been very good to us, giving us 5 energy kind of on turns that we needed it. This turn is a good one to have 5 energy, because that means that we can play everything except for Empty Body. All of these cards give us good things. So let's play Vigilance so that we're in Wrath. Let's play Bowling Bash to deal damage. And these 2 strikes will change the Guardian over. So one of the things that we could ask for ourselves is, do we want to change the Guardian over into the next phase? We might not want to. Usually you do, but it's fair to ask the question, would we want to do that? I think the answer is probably yes. However, it's unfortunate what's in our draw pile for changing the Guardian over to its defensive phase. One option is we could play 1 strike, plan to deal the rest of the damage next turn, which we're not guaranteed to be able to do. I think we should just play this and deal with the fact that next turn we might not draw our defense. We ended up drawing our defense. Very nice. So, number 1, we want to play 2 defensive cards. That way we're blocking for everything. Now, a cool thing with Empty Fist is that when you're in Calm and you play Empty Fist, you exit your stance and you gain 2 energy. Which means if you have a way to enter Calm in your hand, then you basically get a -2 energy cost to Empty Fist, which is quite nice. This also means that we can play our Defend to block for the damage that we just took. Meditate ends your turn, so remember always to play Meditate last. And before we play Meditate, this is what we have in our discard pile. We've got 2 ways to enter Wrath. We've got 2 Mental Fortresses. And that means we probably want Empty Fist in our hand. It might also be good to have Empty Body in our hand so that we can gain block next turn. So let's be safe. We're going to add Empty Fist and Empty Body. 2 different ways to exit our stance, which, as mentioned, can be unnecessary. So I see Mental Fortress and Mental Fortress, and then Eruption. So Mental Fortress, let me start playing them and then talk about it. So this means that we're going to gain 10 block every time we change stances. We can change stances many times this turn, because we could do Empty Body, then Eruption, then Empty Fist, just gain tons of block. This is called stance dancing. So one of the most reliable ways to play the Watcher is to build a deck that can change stances multiple times in a turn and get benefit from changing stances. We can do that with our current deck. I don't really need to play Empty Body because playing Eruption gives us 10 block, and then playing Empty Fist also gives us 10 block. We'll not be in Wrath at the end of the turn, so we'll have 20 block. This one does 16, and we would take 3 damage. Never mind, I was wrong. Good reason to think about things before you do them. So Empty Body gives us an extra block so that we could play Eruption and Empty Fist and take no damage. Glad I thought about that. So we're taking 16 damage, plus we're probably going to take 3 damage twice, because we're going to play 2 attacks. And I can do that because we're going to get 2 energy from Calm. So Empty Body gives us plenty of block, and enough energy so that we could play Eruption and Empty Fist, dealing 28 damage. Unfortunately, we're not in a stance, so we're not going to be in a stance next turn, but we did block for everything, and we did lots of damage. So, Wave of the Hand. If you have a hand that has Wave of the Hand in it, you should always consider playing it first. We will do that. We've got 5 energy, so we can play all these cards. And do we want to go into Wrath? If we went into Wrath, our enemy would be doing, instead of 20 damage, would be doing 40 damage, which is a lot. However, we would also add weakness. So here's an important fact about how things are calculated in Slay the Spire. Consider the weakness first. Well, consider strength and dexterity first. So strength and then weakness and then wrath. So the weakness means that this would be doing 5 times 3 instead, which means once that gets doubled, it's essentially 5 times 6. So that's 30 damage. We can block for 20 if we play Defend, Indignation. That's 20 block. 20 block is not 30. However, if we did not play Indignation, we would be doing only 10 block, and we'd be taking 20. So either way, we're taking 10 damage. Might as well play Indignation so that we deal double damage. Also, notice that we're playing the weakness multiple times. Oh, I totally messed up the which one was in front. I looked at the 4 as the damage. The 4 is the how many times. I've been playing a different game that does that backward. Anyway. So 7 times 4 is only 28. So we're only taking 8 damage instead of the 10 that I said we were taking. Now, Empty Fist would immediately switch the Guardian over to the defensive position. However, what we really want to do is play multiple things. In particular, with the 4 energy that we have, the most damage we can do is Bowling Bash, Eruption, and Empty Fist, not playing the unupgraded Bowling Bash. If we do that, we definitely want to play Empty Fist last. There's a small thing that I'm going to point out when it happens. So we do 20 damage, then we do 18 damage, then the Guardian switches to defensive mode, which adds 20 block. That can be very important. Don't forget that it gets 20 block. Still, the Empty Fist does 8 damage on top of that. And since our opponent is in the defensive mode, we probably don't want to be in Wrath. So we can play... So Meditate, by the way, adds 10 block due to Mental Fortress, and puts us in Calm, so Vigilance is not necessary, except that Meditate goes last. So if we want to we want to play these 2 strikes. We would want to gain block first so that we don't take damage from the sharp hide. And unfortunately, it looks like we don't have the energy to play both strikes and not take damage. We could play the defend first, the 2 strikes, but then we would take 1 damage. We could play the vigilance and 1 strike, but then we would need 1 to play meditate. We want to draw 2 cards, and we definitely want to draw 2 cards. So I'm going to play vigilance and this strike and meditate. And what would we like next turn? Well, it'd be really nice to win next turn, and we very might be able to do that. So if we get Eruption, we can't get Eruption and Indignation, but we can get Eruption Empty Fist. Well, I mean, we can get Eruption Indignation, but if we do, then we don't have necessarily an attack to play with the vulnerable. So let's get Eruption Empty Fist. That also means a lot of block for us. Alright, remember, if we play Eruption, we enter Wrath after, importantly after dealing the damage. So we would deal 9 damage, we would take 3 damage, and then we would get our block. So it'd be nice to play a block card first, so that we don't take damage when we play Eruption. And then we've got plenty of energy to play the rest of our cards. And we already have enough block, so there's no reason to play the rest of these cards. 43 health means that we could very possibly win soon. Apparently not this turn, but probably next turn. It looks like Indignation, Strike, Strike will probably win next turn, because that does 30 damage. So since we know our next turn's hand, all we need to do is make sure that 30 damage wins. Although it'd be nice not to take this damage. And we can gain lots of block next turn. Okay, we're not going to win next turn. Instead, we're going to not take any damage by playing Wave of the Hand and then Vigilance, because that gains our 18 block but also reduces this attack. So we can't win this turn, but we can play Indignation and 2 strikes. And then we can meditate, so we're guaranteed to win next turn. We can basically just set up a winning hand. That's a winning hand. In fact, just the Empty Fist was a winning hand. Alright. Very interesting set of cards. Omniscience. Omniscience can be amazing. Choose a card in your draw pile, play the chosen card twice, and exhaust it. So you're removing a card from your deck. It costs 4 to play Omniscience, which is pretty expensive. We get 4 energy a turn though, so we can do it. Playing the same card twice can be amazing, especially if you've got cards that do things that can be very strong if you play them twice. One of the cards that is strong played twice, which I'm having trouble seeing, there it is, Indignation, because you gain Wrath, and then you also apply the Vulnerable, because the second time you play it, you're already in Wrath. And you don't really need Indignation multiple times in your deck, necessarily, so playing it off of Omniscience is good. Also, very important note, Omniscience works really well with itself, because if you play Omniscience and then you play Omniscience, that means that the Omniscience that you play second gets doubled, which means you get to choose 2 cards to play, and those 2 cards each get doubled. And exhausted, but still, they get doubled. Omniscience is quite good if you have expensive cards in your deck, like Wish, because paying 4 is expensive, but if you're paying 4 to double play a 3-cost card, it can be a lot better. Omniscience is definitely something to not sleep on. It can be very strong. We've talked about Wish, so I won't repeat. Deus Ex Machina. When you draw this, add 2 miracles to your hand and exhaust. It's basically 2 energy. Think of this as a card that gives you 2 energy. That's not bad. It's not what we need. We don't really need a card that gives us 2 energy right now. But it's not bad. It's okay. I really like Omniscience. I think we're going to choose Omniscience. This has powerful effects, especially if we get it on our opening turn. Okay, 3 relics. Fusion Hammer we can no longer smith at rest sites. The extra energy every turn, definitely good, but no longer being able to smith, very expensive. That hurts. Sozu, also you gain extra energy every turn, but you can no longer obtain potions. That would mean that we could no longer obtain gold or potions. Not the best. However, that extra energy is very significant. Black Star. Elites drop additional relics. This is really nice to find after the first boss, because you're still going to fight a lot of elites. The question is getting future relics. This could easily be 4, 6, or 8 or more. Well, not more than 8 really. This could easily be 4 to 8 relics. Is getting 4 to 8 random relics better than getting an energy at the beginning of every turn and no longer obtaining potions? Hard to choose. I generally like the energy. The energy every turn can be very strong. We suffer from the problem of not being able to spend our energy. That has changed a little bit with Omniscience, but still, we suffer a little bit from having very little draw in our deck and having a bunch of things that just cost 1. So Sozu could be amazing, but it's not amazing now. Black Star could be amazing, could be nothing. It could be anything. It could even be a boat. Or at least parts of a boat. An anchor, for example. I think that the Fusion Hammer is not what we're picking because we would like to smith our cards. The Sozu is certainly an option. I like the extra energy. We haven't been using our potions yet, but we certainly want to eventually. The Black Star can be good, can be not good. I will level with all of you that Black Star is another thing that I possibly like too much, because I like getting shiny things in games, and relics are the shiny things in Slay the Spire. So I'm definitely leaning towards Black Star. That might be partially due to my own desires in video games, rather than being the best strategic option. But you know what? I play games for shiny digital things. Let's go. So now that we chose Black Star, we definitely want to take elites. As many as possible. It looks like that option is the right path. Because I see 1 elite, 2 elite, 3 elite, along with some fireplaces that allow for lots of upgrades. We don't care about shops, so it's also nice that we can avoid all the shops that way. The left path only has 2 elites at max. This one could lead into one of those 2. This one could lead into one of those 3. But you only get 2 elites. And if you go to any of these, you get a shop, which is worthless to us. So the left path, really the only option would be this path. And you know, it's not terrible. but it's not as good as the right path, which has multiple fireplaces for upgrades and one more elite. That means that we're going this way. Alright, Act 2. Act 2, the main problem that you usually have in Act 2 is a sudden need to block that you didn't have in Act 1. We have that. We have that problem, a sudden need to block. However, we've got a pretty decent deck for blocking, honestly. The Chosen is one that punishes you for playing skills, but at this Ascension level, and I have the Bestiary mod, the Bestiary? Don't know the correct pronunciation there. But I have that mod installed so I can right-click on the Chosen and see what it does. So, because of the Ascension level that we're at, it starts with Poke, which is 6 times 2, and then it follows by Hex, and then after the second turn, then we are hexed, which means every skill we play, we get a status card in our deck, a dazed card. So we don't really care about not playing skills until turn 3. By turn 3 with the Watcher, we probably want to be almost have won the battle. There's a couple options here. We could play Eruption. If we played Eruption, we would be taking 24 damage. That's a lot of damage. If we play Vigilance, then we're blocking for 8. We could play Vigilance and then Eruption, which would mean we get the 8 block, then we get Eruption for free because we get the 2 energy back. However, that 2 energy would come at the cost of this dealing double damage. That would mean we'd have 8 block, but it's dealing 24 damage. And we'd have the ability to do Wave of the Hand and Defend. Yeah, Vigilance plus Eruption plus Wave of the Hand Defend is one option. In that order. You can't start with the Wave of the Hand because then you can't play Vigilance and then Eruption. You don't have the energy for it. And so you can't play Wave of the Hand until the end when you're about to play Defend. So, Vigilance, Eruption, Wave of the Hand, Defend. That's one option. That would cause the Chosen to be doing, I think it would be doing 5 times 2. Maybe it would be doing 4 times 2. And that would be doubled. So it would be doing maybe 16. We would only be able to block for 13. Still not bad. However, I think I'd prefer to not take the damage this turn. There's a couple ways to do that. One of the ways is to play Wave of the Hand and then Vigilance. That would mean we apply Weakness. One of the ways is to play Vigilance Defend. There's kind of no reason to apply Weakness for only 1 turn unless you need it to block, so Vigilance Defend is just as good. And then Strike. So we decided not to take damage that turn in order to do good things this turn. Now the good things this turn is mainly Meditate, because we can play Empty Fist, Bowling Bash, and then we can Meditate and set up a really good turn next turn. 58, we have a good number of attacks in the deck, although not as much as I would like. We are getting extra energy next turn, and this will put us in Calm. So most likely, Eruption Empty Fist is our best option for dealing damage. So Eruption Empty Fist, that also likely gives us block because of our cards that we did not draw, the Mental Fortresses. Oh well. It looks like we can play Eruption Indignation Empty Fist though, which might just win the battle. Eruption, Indignation, Empty Fist, which means Bowling Bash and Empty Fist win. Great. Won the battle, took no damage. Do we want a Speed Potion? Speed Potion, I think, is not great. It's not my favorite potion. It's particularly bad when your block is mainly coming from Mental Fortress or Ornamental Fan, because it doesn't help those sources of block. I really like the Strength Potion. I like our Power Potion. I like our Liquid Memories. So we're just going to leave the Speed Potion there. Ho-ho, Rush Down. Alright. Weave. Weave can be a perfectly fine attack to put in your deck if you have Scry abilities in your deck. Really, just 1 or 2 Scry abilities makes Weave good. It makes it at least good if you can handle having a 0-cost, low-damage attack card, but being able to draw it 3 times during one run through your deck is pretty good. Rush Down allows you to draw 2 extra cards. It's also already upgraded, so it costs 0. We really need to be able to draw more cards in our deck, so I'm definitely considering Rush Down. Wallop. Wallop is a really nice card because you gain block, and you gain block based on how much damage you deal, so that can be doubled when you're in Wrath. Both of these are quite good. I am certainly picking the Rush Down here, partially because it's upgraded, and partially because I really think we need more draw card abilities. The Spirit Guardian. The Spirit Guardian can be really annoying because things like Indignation don't add vulnerable to it. However, because it has the 3 artifacts, it also retains block over its turn, so it has 20 health, but actually it has a lot more health. It essentially heals every turn that it adds block, and it adds block every 3rd turn. I say that, I can look. Yeah, it adds block every 3rd turn. And it also makes us frail, which can be bad, but it's not bad if you gain block from Mental Fortress, right? So Mental Fortress and Rush Down. Let's play Rush Down first. Always start with the card which draws you more cards. That draws us cards because we have Indignation. We don't need the block this turn, so no reason to play Mental Fortress immediately. And, you know, one of the questions that you should ask yourself with the Watcher is, can I win this turn? Strike would deal 34 damage. Remember, that's partially due to Akko-Bekko. This strike would do 6 times 2, that's 12. So 34 plus 12 is 46. And Bowling Bash, how much does this normally deal? This would deal 14 damage. So we would be doing 34 plus 12 plus 14. That is a clean... Let me do the math again, sorry. 34 plus 12 is 46. Plus 14 turns out to be 60, exactly the health of our enemy. It's always a good question. Can I just immediately win this turn? The answer this time is apparently yes. We can exactly win this turn. That is the Watcher for you. Sometimes it just wins. I like Flying Sleeves. It retains, which means you basically don't play it until you're in Wrath. But it doesn't do a lot of damage. 4 damage twice is nice. That's also nice with the Akko-Bekko. But honestly, I think Flying Sleeves is just an okay attack card. It's better if you can add Strength, which we can't do in our deck. We can do with the Strength Potion. I do want more attacks in the deck, but I don't think Flying Sleeves is going to be it. I think it's too little. Too little. And we've talked about Protect and Tranquility. Tranquility is definitely better than it was before due to our mental fortresses, but we also have a couple ways. We've got 4 ways in our deck to get out of Wrath, so it's not as important as it once was. Oh, very interesting. So, Council of Ghosts. In general, the Council of Ghosts is extremely strong. Losing 40 max health is really bad. It's 50%, by the way. It removes 50% of your max health. So we would be at 40 health in total. However, we would get 5 extremely strong cards. Gaining 1 intangible essentially means that you get to ignore an attack. You get to ignore attacks for a turn. Intangible means that you get 1 damage from any attacks. Anytime you would take damage, you get 1 damage instead of how much you would take. That can be really good. It can be really good because you can be in Wrath and play Apparition, and even though you're taking double damage, you actually only take 1. So this is very strong. We also have the slight benefit of, because we gain max HP with the Face of Cleric, the fact that we're losing half of our max health, although it's painful, we slowly regain it. And the 5 Apparition is quite good. This is much worse in higher Ascension levels because you only get 3 Apparition, but getting 5 Apparition is a lot. We are definitely going to take this. And in general, if you see this, you should probably take this. In general. Not always true, but in general. Now we have a lot of ways to block in our deck. We really need to remove cards if we can. That's hard when you have no money. And we really need to get more attacks. So, Pain. Unfortunately, as much as I like this special relic, the Warp Tongs is excellent because it upgrades a random card in your hand. So it can upgrade lots of cards. That's nice. Pain is a terrible curse. While in your hand, you lose 1 HP whenever you play another card. That is a terrible curse. It's much worse when we only have 40 max health. But also, I mean, we would actually get 6 if we took it because of Darkstone Periap. But also, we have no way to guarantee that we can get rid of Pain. Because we can't afford a shop removing a card, which means we have to randomly get an event that can remove a curse. That's not good. You don't want to have Pain in your deck and not be able to get rid of it. So we're not going to do this, we're just going to do the basic upgrade a card in your deck. Which can be a lot of good things. Omniscience makes it cost 3. You know, that's a lot less than 4. The Wave of the Hand, we've talked about how good that can be. The Indignation, we've talked about how much we don't care about Indignation. The Apparitions are quite good too, because losing Ethereal is good. The Ethereal means that you kind of have to play it when you draw it. Losing Ethereal means that you can save it for the future. I think I most want Omniscience upgraded, because even though we have lots of energy, we don't have a whole lot more than 4 energy. So getting this down to 3 makes it a lot more playable. Let's do that. But I'm certainly considering upgrading those Apparitions. The Snake Plant. So here's a time where Apparition is amazing. The reason why it's amazing is because when we play it, we're only taking 3 damage, even when we go into Wrath, which we're going to do. So we're going into Wrath. The fact that we're in Wrath doesn't affect how much damage we're taking. We can even play another apparition so that we know that we're taking only 1 damage next turn, and only 1 defend blocks all of this. We're in Wrath, and we have Akabeko, which means next turn we get to do 1 very strong attack. What 1 very strong attack are we going to play? We could play Strike, or we could avoid playing Strike and wait for a stronger attack. It might be good to wait for a stronger attack. We certainly could play Apparition, and we're certainly going to play Rushdown, and we're certainly going to play Mental Fortress. There's kind of no reason to play Vigilance because we've got Intangible, so it's really a question of, would we like to waste our Akabeko on a Strike? And the answer is yes. The answer is yes because Akabeko gives the same amount of additional damage regardless of how much the initial damage of the card is. So it only matters if there's a card that you have that would do multiple hits of damage, which we don't have because the Bowling Bashes don't do it in a single enemy combat. And no reason to enter Vigilance. There's a small reason because we've got Rushdown, so we could enter Vigilance so that we could go back into Wrath and get the Draw 2 effect again, but we don't need to do that. We also only have 1 Enter Wrath card in our draw pile. So see how we are frail? Doesn't really matter when we have Intangible all the time. And do I want to play another Apparition? Or do we want to play Bowling Bash, Strike, Strike, Defend? Probably another Apparition. The Bowling Bash and the Strike, don't play the other Strike. If we're intangible until we win the combat, then we're going to do just fine. I'm thinking about playing Omniscience. If we play Omniscience, we could double play Bowling Bash. Let's double play Bowling Bash with Omniscience. So Omniscience, double play Bowling Bash, and win. We get another Power Potion. Do I want that more than the potions we have? I don't think so. I don't think so. I like the Power Potions, but is it really any better than Liquid Memories? I don't think so. Let's just add a card. So here's a good block card. We kind of don't need those now. Here's an only so-so attack card. The Perseverance is a pretty interesting block card because it has Retain on it, and it gets stronger while you don't play it. I guess that's pretty good with a deck that has Apparitions, because you wait until you're not intangible, and by that time, Perseverance is a lot stronger. But do I really want to add more block cards to our deck that has 5 Apparitions? Probably not. I think the answer is probably not, but I'm really considering it. Because we only draw it once, man, I'm going to take it, but I don't necessarily like that I'm taking it. Because we need more attacks, not more blocks. But that's such a strong block card, and I'm thinking about the Corrupt Heart right now. 5 intangible probably doesn't get us to kill the Corrupt Heart. So we need a way to kill the Corrupt Heart. Of course we're going to Smith. And really the question is Wave of the Hand, which adds 2 weak, or an Apparition so that we cannot play Apparitions every single turn we draw them. Kind of like Apparition. Yeah, let's get Apparition upgraded. I don't know how many Apparitions I want upgraded before we do other things. Okay, unfortunately we have no way to gain block in our hand. So we're going to take damage. We're only going to take 2 damage because we have Apparition. And I will play both of these Apparitions. The Book of Stabbing always attacks, so kind of don't need... You don't need to save your Apparitions in this battle. But because we don't have a way to gain block, we are going to take the 2 damage. And because we take 2 damage, we get 2 wounds. We get 1 damage twice, which means we get 2 wounds from the Book of Stabbing, which is not my favorite. Also, Wave of the Hand is pretty good against the Book of Stabbing, but not when you draw it without a way to get block. There's 2 wounds. Now, we still haven't drawn a way to get into Wrath, but at least we can play another Apparition, remain intangible for more turns. A Defend means that we block everything, and we can just continue to do damage to the Book of Stabbing. I potentially want to use potions in this fight, but I'm not sure yet. Man. We have too many starting cards in our deck, but we don't have a way to get rid of them, so that's why we have so many. This is a time that Perseverance is nice with the intangible, because we get to play Empty Body. And save Perseverance, which means it gets stronger. Granted, this is not a battle that you want to have take very long. Well, there's no reason to not play Rushdown. That's the first step. Next, we probably want to play Omniscience. If we play Omniscience, we could play Indignation twice, which means we would be in Wrath, draw 2 cards, and apply 3 vulnerable. If we do that, we don't have a lot of energy to spend this turn. But we don't need a lot. We would gain block from the Mental Fortress. So let's do it. Omniscience, get our Indignation, double play that. We do want to play this Apparition, unfortunately, because that removes some of the damage we're doing this turn. And as much as I would like to play Meditate, would it be better to play the Bowling Bash? I think we'd rather play Bowling Bash for 30 damage. Alright, so next turn we know we're going to draw ways to get out of Wrath and back in Wrath, which is kind of nice because we get to draw 2 cards when we do that. So if we play Vigilance and then Eruption, we draw 2 more cards and gain lots of block. And then I guess we play Bowling Bash and Strike. Next turn we're not intangible, so we kind of need either to block or win next turn. Most likely we win, but you can see how I would prefer to have some more attacks in the deck, because we should be winning this fight faster. We ended up only taking 2 damage. Ooh, Vajra. Start each combat with 1 strength. Remember, with the Watcher, strength gets doubled when you're in Wrath. Essentially, the effects get doubled in Wrath. Juzu Bracelet means we no longer get enemy combats in question mark rooms. Don't know if that's good or bad for us. We're taking it. I think an attack potion is not as good as what we have. Alright, signature move. You know, I should explain all of these. So, one option is Reach Heaven. Reach Heaven deals 15 damage, and then you also get a Through Violence in your deck, which does 20 damage and costs 0. That essentially adds 2 good attack cards to the deck. I think that's very good. Signature move does a lot of damage, but can only be played if it's the only attack card in your hand. as long as you have enough energy to play all of your attack cards, this is great. We might have that. However, there will be some times where we just can't play signature move, so it's a dead card in our hand. And then Conjure Blade. Conjure Blade is an interesting one because it's so strong and so bad at the same time. The Expunger deals 9 damage X times, and you get to play it multiple times. It does not exhaust. Conjure Blade exhausts, the Expunger does not. However, the turn that you play Conjure Blade, you're not doing anything else, and then you have to wait to then draw the Expunger. And the Expunger is only good if the Conjure Blade was played with a high X value. This works better in our deck than it normally does because we do have apparitions. So we could play one apparition and then play Conjure Blade. That would mean we'd get an Expunger that does 9 damage 3 times. 4 times if Happy Flower also gives us an energy that turn. But is that better than Reach Heaven, which does 15 damage when you play it, and then Through Violence, which does 20 damage when you play it? Because that's 35 damage. 35 damage, which costs less than the Conjure Blade to play. You can see why I think I would rather have Reach Heaven. And then of course Signature Move is even more damage, but only if it's the only card in your hand. That is an attack. I kind of like Signature Blade though. Or Signature Move, I mean. Having not that many attacks in the deck makes Signature Move a lot better. Let's take it. Let's take Signature Move. I think it can be very strong. And of course we Smith, don't need to rest for 2. The Signature Move that we took was already upgraded, so I think we take another Apparition upgrade. Horn Cleat. At the start of the second turn, gain 14 block. Tends to be pretty good, honestly. Gaining 14 block in the second turn is often a turn that you need block in most battles. That's true for pretty much all of the bosses that we're coming up against. We have to take the Sapphire Key sometime, but the Horn Cleat is pretty nice. It is worse with apparitions, but as we upgrade those apparitions, it becomes better. Let's take the Horn Cleat. We'll get the Sapphire Key later. Smith again. Do we want to Smith even another apparition, or do we turn into like Eruption instead? I think one more and then we Smith Eruption. Alright, the Gremlin Leader. This is a fight where our Bowling Bashes are particularly good. We can do Indignation and then a Strike. Indignation and a Strike would kill one of these. This might be a one where we use a Power Potion. Kinda don't think we need the Power Potion though. So, I'm thinking we play Indignation first, and then Vigilance afterward. So Indignation, we're in Wrath, then we get to kill this one, deal some damage to this one, and then enter Calm, and block for everything. Killing off the little gremlins is very important in the Gremlin Leader fight, because that means that he spends less turn attacking you and more turns summoning more gremlins. It also prevents the gremlins from doing damage to you. Now, Wave of the Hand doesn't actually do anything if we kill this gremlin. It would if we had it upgraded, because applying 2 weak would mean that the gremlin leader would be weak next turn. But it doesn't do much if we're thinking we're going to hit the mad gremlin, which we are. Empty Fist does 15 damage, which kills the mad gremlin. Bowling Bash does 22 damage. So I guess we do 22 damage here. And then 15 damage there. And then no reason to play this apparition because no damage is coming in, and it is not one of the ones that exhaust. I like to see Rushdown here. I like seeing Rushdown. I wish we entered Wrath more reliably. Another card that enters Wrath would be good. Or just more damage in our deck, honestly. So, play a Rushdown, play the 2 Apparitions, and a Defend. Now, which one do we strike? We strike the Gremlin Wizard, I think. Or at this point, do we just rely on all of the Apparitions that we have? We could rely on all the Apparitions that we have and just going directly after the boss. You know? It's not a terrible option. Because we should be able to kill the boss quickly. Yeah, I think because we have so many Apparitions, we have Intangible next turn. We're kind of guaranteed to have Intangible the turn after that. There's 3 cards that we can draw to get that. Apparition, Apparition, or Omniscience. Or Meditate on next turn. Yeah. Let's go after the boss. So we're planning to kill the boss and just block the damage with Intangible while we're killing the boss. So here is an Apparition. Here's also a signature move, which makes me question whether we can just win this turn. If we can't, I probably want to play Meditate. But Eruption, Bowling Bash, and Signature Move, does that just win? I think it does. Also, when we enter Wrath, we draw 2 cards, which might mean that we can't play... If we draw that Strike, we couldn't play the signature move. Let's start with Eruption and see what happens. We did not draw the Strike. But I also did my math wrong, because 82 plus 16 is only 98. It's not enough damage. So what we're going to do is we're going to play Apparition, Apparition, probably, I guess, Mental Fortress and Meditate, because that blocks for everything and makes it really easy to block in the future. And then we can get Eruption and Indignation into our deck, or we could get Apparition into our deck. Let's get another Apparition. And an Eruption. So this means that we have another turn of Intangible, guaranteed. Ho-ho, we got Omniscience. Omniscience with a Strike in our deck is not the best. Not the best. But at least we can do Eruption. Eruption. Now the Omniscience is great, because we can Omniscience a Bowling Bash, which we have... Oh, we actually have a Bowling Bash here. Did I have... I think I could have won a previous turn, because I didn't factor the Bowling Bash dealing damage multiple times. Anyway, we can definitely win with Omniscience Bowling Bash. It's actually not definite because we don't get to choose the target of Bowling Bash. There we go. We did win. Alright. That one went a couple different places. Meat on the bone. If your HP is at or below 50% by the end of combat, heal 12. That can be very good. It's a sustainable way to gain health. However, it's worse when you have really low max health, because being less than 50% is much worse. The war paint. So, one of the things I always think about when I see war paint is I always want to click the add card to your deck first, because there might be a skill here that you might want to be upgraded by war paint rather than the ones you already have in your deck. That's not the case here because we're not building pressure points, don't care that much about consecrate. We do really like wheel kick. Wheel kick is another way to draw cards, and it's a big attack card. Let's take a wheel kick. And then war paint gives us apparition and indignation. Don't care about the indignation, but I did like the apparition upgrade. Signature move. So any card that has an effect that only happens under certain conditions will have a gold border, like signature move has here, if the effect is active this turn. That's really nice. It's a nice UI feature that's in the game. So signature move does 49 damage this turn. That means it could just kill the fungi beast. And we don't even care about being vulnerable because we have apparitions. So let's do that. So 18 damage coming in. It would be nice if we didn't have to play this apparition to block that, but we do, so we will. Remember not to play Perseverance because it retains and it gets better. $31 damage seems like a lot, but we do have an apparition in our hand. And we have an Omniscience. The question with Omniscience is, can we just win? We could play 2 wheel kicks, draw lots of cards. That would do 30 damage and draw lots of cards. We could get Indignation, enter Wrath, and apply Vulnerable. I think what we do is we play Omniscience. Actually, let's play Mental Fortress first. Doesn't really matter. Let's play Mental Fortress first anyway. So we're going to play Omniscience. Omniscience to get to get, what am I looking for? I'm looking for Indignation. Because then we enter Wrath and we apply Vulnerable 5, which means in future turns we're going to deal a lot of damage. This turn we certainly have to use Apparition though. Now then, we've got Rushdown, we've got Empty Fist, we have a Mental Fortress, so we can gain a lot of block this turn. Let's play the Rushdown, let's play the Mental Fortress. Let's play the Wave of the Hand. Now the reason we can add lots of block is because we can play Empty Fist, which does a bunch of damage, and exits our stance, so we get 10 block. And then we can play Meditate, which enters Calm, which adds 10 block again. We want to have probably Empty Fist in our hand. Either that or Signature Move. Signature Move. We've got too many attacks in the deck for me to choose Signature Move. Let's choose Empty Fist. And Bowling Bash. We probably can't win this turn, but there's no reason not to play Empty Fist, which gains us more energy as we exit our stance, which means we can play Bowling Bash and Strike. And we were not able to win, but we're going to be intangible for the next 3 turns, so we should be able to come out of here without taking any more damage. Great. A Flex Potion. Is a Flex Potion better than a Strength Potion? It can be, because you use it while you're in Wrath. It can be. It's probably not good in the battles that are a problem for us, which are boss battles. The small enemy fights are not that bad because apparitions basically block for us. But the boss battles can be more of a problem. I think I'd rather have the strength potion for bosses. Could get another empty fist. I don't think I want another empty fist. Especially not upgraded. Don't want too many ways to exit your stance. We really want more ways to get into stances. Protect 16 block with retain is not terrible, but certainly is much worse with the deck that we have. In worship, if you play it twice you get into divinity, but we don't have any other way to gain mantra, so it's not the best for us. We'll skip. We'll skip all of these rewards. The Snecko. Confusion could be bad for us. Snecko always adds confusion to you on the first turn. Confusion means that your cards are assigned a random cost, 0 to 3. If they get assigned 0, that's great. If you get a card that costs 1, for example, and gets assigned 3, that can be really painful. We have a few cards that cost 2 or more, which means on average they're getting better costs rather than worse costs. But still, confusion can be not great. Doesn't change what we do this turn. We play Mental Fortress, we play Empty Fist, and we play Vigilance. Because those all give us benefit, and these two don't. So the Rushdown costs 0. It normally costs 0, but even Confusion, it costs 0. We have an Omniscience, which only costs 2 to play. If we played Eruption, we would get 2 energy back because we switch stances, because we exit Calm. So that means the Eruption is kind of like costing 1. Unfortunately, we can't play Eruption, Strike, Strike, Omniscience, because if we could do that, if we could afford all of those, then we could double play Signature Move, which would win the fight immediately. Since we don't get that, the real question is, what are we doing? Snecko is dealing 10 damage. If we go into Wrath, we gain 6 block. So we would block for the 20 that we would take. That means there's no reason not to go into Wrath. Unless I don't want to go into Wrath, gain 2 cards and gain 2 energy. No, we want to be in Wrath. Now we've only got 3. We're probably going to play Omniscience. We're going to play the 0-cost Strike. So Omniscience, what nice attack card would we like to play twice? Perhaps Wheel Kick. That would do 30 damage twice. And draw us lots of cards. No reason not to play Mental Fortress. There is no reason to have played Apparition or Defend. And we only have to do 5 damage at this point, which is a strike. No problem. Just continue not taking damage. Foreign Influence. Foreign Influence can be surprisingly good because you get to choose one of the 3 attacks. So it's kind of like getting an attack-only card pack every battle. And that's stronger than just one card pack where you get an attack. Otherwise, you know, it costs 0. The attack that it adds doesn't cost 0 unless you upgrade this, which can be nice. Just Lucky is a very interesting card. The Scry 1 is not amazing, but if you upgrade it, it becomes Scry 2. The block is not amazing, but when you're intangible most of the time, 2 block is enough. And the 3 damage isn't amazing. It's kind of all around it does something, but it doesn't do a lot. The collect puts a Miracle Plus into your hand at the start of your next X turns. Basically, you're getting a lot of energy over time. However, a lot of energy over time tends not to be amazing unless you have a deck that can use that energy. And we certainly don't in our deck. Not to the point that we want to spend one of our turns making it so that we gain energy in future turns. I think that collect is, to me it looks better than it is. It's really hard to make it work. So I tend not to choose collect unless I have a deck that could really benefit. And it's hard to find those. The other thing about collect to talk about is how many times you have to draw cards. So spending a turn drawing a card, drawing collect, and then playing collect means that you've spent a card draw to gain potentially only 2 energy if you paid 1 for it. I don't know, it's fine. It's similar to the silent card that gives you extra energy next turn, and that card is also difficult to play with. I think I want Foreign Influence because I want more attacks in the deck, and having Foreign Influence in your hand is actually really nice with Signature Move, because Foreign Influence is a skill card. So you could play the Signature Move and then play the Foreign Influence and still play 2 attacks. Let's take Foreign Influence. I wouldn't mind upgrading that one either. Alright, Book of Stabbing is back, this time with 40 extra health because of the Burning Elite power. 40 extra health is a lot of extra health. That is not great for us. What do? Do we play one of these? Do I play Indignation? If I play Indignation, I would want to play it after Mental Fortress, but then we would be getting a lot of damage this turn. That does mean that we could play Wave of the Hand. I think we play Foreign Influence first. Let's see what attack we have to work with. So recall that we have to pay for the attack. So Blood for Blood is not going to cost 0. And Sunder is not going to cost 0. I think we get Sweeping Beam. It's basic, but fine. So we could do Mental Fortress, Wave of the Hand, Indignation. That would mean you would do less attack damage, 25% less, for 2 turns. I think we want one of these, and I'm thinking this is the time that we use the Power Potion. Devotion adding Mantra doesn't do much for us. Master Reality doesn't affect many of the cards. It really affects the one we've already played. And Battle Hymn adds a Smite every turn, which means this battle gets over with real fast. That's good to hear. Do we play Wave of the Hand Defend, or do we play Indignation? If we play Indignation, how much damage do we take? So that would be 14 times 2, but 25% less means I think that's 10 times 2, so 20 damage incoming, and we would only block for 11. So we would be taking 9 damage. I think we don't play Indignation. So we're playing Sweeping Beam. And then we play Wave of the Hand, Defend Empty Body? Or do I really want the Mental Fortress? I do really want the Mental Fortress. Maybe we don't play Wave of the Hand. Do we not? This is such a hard decision. I think we don't play Wave of the Hand. Could have played Indignation instead of this Defend. Because the Indignation would mean we gained 6 block from the Mental Fortress, and we would have gained another 6 block. Yeah, I played that turn wrong. We should have played Indignation then Empty Body. Because that would have gained 12 more block, rather than 5 block. Yeah, that was wrong. I'm taking 2 damage because of a mistake there. So there's our Apparition. We like seeing the Apparition. Let's start with Wheel Kick. Perseverance is nice to see. I think what we do is we play Apparition, so we don't take any damage this turn. And then we play our best attack, which is Empty Fist. So there's our Omniscience. We can play Apparition and then Omniscience Eruption. Yes, let's do that. So if we play Apparition and then we Omniscience Eruption, we enter Wrath, which gives us block, and now we're in Wrath. We keep the Smites, so let's play the Strike this turn. Let's play the Smites on a future turn. So Rush Down, of course. We need to play an Apparition this turn unless we just win. And do we just win? 26, 26, 26. We don't just win. So let's play an Apparition. And then Smite. We have the 2 Smites for next turn, so there's not a whole lot of reason to play them. Unless we want to guarantee that we can play Signature Move next turn. Which we can't actually guarantee. So let's play Apparition, Apparition. Oh, and I took 4 damage. Actually, should not have done the Apparitions. I've made several mistakes this fight. So if we play Smite, 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 Strike, we win. Alright, I think I could have taken 0 damage, and instead we took 6 damage, which is not great. We got the boot. The boot basically does nothing for us, because we pretty much always do more than 4 or 5 or more damage. The only time it affects us is when we're fighting the Nemesis. And when we're going through block. It has a couple of effects, but not many. Emerald Key, that's one of our keys to get to Act 4. The Toxic Egg is great. It's less good the later you get it. Whenever you add a skill to your deck, upgrade it. Remember to get the Toxic Egg before you pick your card. Crescendo is a way to enter Wrath. I said that I wanted another way to enter Wrath, and there it is. Crescendo. So now we've got plenty of ways to enter Wrath. Let's Smith. And what do we Smith? I think at this point we Smith an attack. And I honestly want to Smith for an influence, because then getting the card to cost 0 is pretty nice. Alright. The Bronze Automaton. Bronze Automaton has 1 turn where you absolutely need to block. And let's right click so we can see that. So the Hyper Beam turn does 50 damage. However, he's going to boost himself, so it's going to do even more than 50 damage that 1 turn. That would be terrible if we're in Wrath when he's doing Hyper Beam. So it's going to do... You can see that it starts with Spawn Orbs, and then it does Flail Boost, Hyper Beam. So turn 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Turn 6 is the painful turn. We need a way to block during that turn. Probably we can get that. We can especially probably get that because of Liquid Memories. if we leave an apparition in the discard pile, we can get it back with liquid memories that turn. Also, the other thing to say is that it's boosting next turn, so next turn it's not attacking. The 2 bronze orbs might attack, but next turn most likely there's not an attack. So there's very little reason to not play Eruption and stay in Wrath this turn. One of the things we might be able to do is win before something happens, before we get to the Hyper Beam. Alright, we've got an actually pretty good turn here. Let's see what's in for an influence. Core Surge gains an artifact for ourselves. Heavy Blade. Heavy Blade is more damage. And we do have 1 strength, so it gets affected by that. Dramatic Entrance hits all of them, which is not bad, because we do want to hit the other ones. Let's get the Heavy Blade. Just want the extra damage. And then Apparition, so we don't take damage here. I think I said it wrong. I think I said that we weren't getting attacked this turn. That was wrong, clearly. So, let's kill one of the orbs. Should have gone after that one. Anyway. So, Omniscience. By the way, the bronze orbs will always take your most rare card. So it was guaranteed to take Omniscience. We actually could know that it was going to take Omniscience there. Next turn we're being attacked. We could play both of these apparitions, but I think I'd rather play Wheel Kick. Oh, signature move is active. How about that? We probably want to hit the boss with that. And we do have plenty of block in the deck, I think. So let's play signature move. Hit the boss for 82. We're being attacked this turn. We've got apparitions. The strike doesn't quite kill you, which is actually fine for us. We're not going to be attacked by the bronze automaton next turn, so there's no reason to play both apparitions. Just play the one. Keep the perseverance in the deck. Now this is an interesting turn because when we kill you, we get Omniscience into our hand. So one of the things that we can do is play Empty Fist to kill you, get the Omniscience into our hand, and then use it to play one of these. Like playing Rushdown twice is not terrible. I think I like playing Rushdown twice. Or we could avoid all of that, play Mental Fortress, yeah. So let's play Empty Fist, play the Mental Fortress, and Meditate. And next turn, we want to do lots of damage. Our deck contains those 2 attacks and a Rushdown, so signature move is very likely to be able to be played. But we really want Eruption, except that we have Crescendo in our hand. Great. Signature move. And something else. Forgot that we got 2. Probably we want Empty Fist. Except that you don't want to play Empty Fist before signature move. So actually what we want is an apparition. So here is the big turn. Having the apparition in our hand means that we can avoid the problems this turn. Indignation doesn't do anything more than Crescendo, really. So there's kind of no reason to play Indignation because of the artifact charges. So I think we want to play Eruption. This does give us energy, draws us cards. We can't play signature move because we have too many attacks. This is the time that we want to play apparition though. Yeah, play the apparition. Play the bowling bash strike and strike, I guess. Unfortunately, the signature move cannot be played, but I really wanted to. So now he's dazed this turn, which gives us an extra turn to do some damage. Let's do wheel kick, heavy blade, and we could do empty fist. That means we could use crescendo next turn to get back into wrath and draw 2 cards. Alright, get into wrath, draw 2 cards, and win. That was the Bronze Automaton, not too bad. Distilled Chaos, it's chaotic, but it can be good. It is the worst potion with the Watcher, because usually you want to be careful about whether you're in wrath or not, and Distilled Chaos is a little bit too chaotic. You can enter into wrath or get out of wrath in a way that you did not want to. Still not a bad potion. So Blasphemy is quite good. The nice thing about Blasphemy is that Divinity Stance is amazing. The bad thing about Blasphemy is you die. Blasphemy kills you. Turns out you don't want to blaspheme your god. This card is probably my favorite card in the game, because it has both caused me to win fights that I was definitely losing, and caused me to lose fights that I really thought I was gonna win. It's a very interesting card. It's probably not the best for the deck that we have. It's certainly not good against bosses like the Corrupt Heart. You don't really want Blasphemy, I don't think. On the other hand, Brilliance is quite a nice attack card. I did say we wanted more attack cards. This is a 12 damage for 1 energy. Gets better if we have Mantra. We don't really have that, but still. And Master Reality, this can be amazing with certain cards that we don't have. The only card that we have that adds a card during combat is for an influence. So Master Reality is quite bad with the deck that we have. We're taking Brilliance. We want more attack. Alright, double the effectiveness of potions can be quite amazing. Removing 2 cards from our deck really might be what we want, because removing 2 cards means that we draw our better cards more often. We still have most of our starting deck in our deck. The Busted Crown gives us more energy. We actually have a deck that could use the more energy at this point. The question is it better than removing 2 cards? The future card rewards have 2 less to choose from. It makes the Toxic Egg a lot worse. But I still like the extra energy every turn. I think we want Empty Cage though. Let's Empty Cage a Defend and a Strike. Those are 2 cards that I would prefer not to draw. Alright, our boss is the Time Eater. The Time Eater requires you to not play too many cards that don't do much during your turn, because it ends your turn after 12 cards played. We actually have a deck that doesn't play tons of cards every turn. Notably, Omniscience is problematic with the Time Eater because it counts as 3 card plays. The Omniscience card, and then the Chosen card twice. That counts as 3 card plays. But I think we don't have a bad deck for the Time Eater. So mostly what we want to do is fight elites, because we've got the Black Star. Fighting elites. I see an elite there, and an elite here. So that means... Oh man, we can only fight 2 elites. And what path gives us the least shops and the most fires? Because we like the fires. I guess this gives us a fire, but it also gives us a shop. We could get 2 fires that way. This way is only 1 fire. If we went this way, we'd have to go to a shop. So most of the ways involve going to a shop, or 2, which is pretty useless. But I don't see a way to get more fires than that, and I would like to upgrade more of our cards. So maybe we go to 2 shops, which do nothing, but we also go to 2 fires. On the other hand, we could go to several events, skip one of the fires, and still go to a shop? Sure. You know, the problem with not going to too many fires is that we need the red key, which we get at a fireplace. But I think we're going to start here, and then we're going to decide what else we do. Alright, the Thorns damage. Thorns damage is annoying, but it is mostly blocked by Apparition, by the way. Apparition works well against Thorns. Empty Body gives us block. Bowling Bash just kills something. 19 3 times. It's really good because of the Akabeko. So 19 3 times. That can kill this one immediately. Let's do that. And then Empty Fist is our better attack. Let's hit that against the Exploder. Now we do have 14 block and a bunch of apparitions. Well, I guess we'll play all these apparitions. So we've got intangible for many turns. One of the things that you can do with the Watcher is just be intangible, or not the Watcher specifically, but one of the things that you can do with intangible is just be intangible when this is going to explode. Then it only does 1 damage to you. So you're not actually worried about the fact that it's dealing damage. Right now, the only way for us to gain block is Perseverance. But we could play Perseverance and Omniscience. Let's see what's in the Foreign Influence first. Those are not great. I guess because it's going to cost 0, the Perfect Strike is the best. Not by much. Let's play Perseverance to gain block. And then play Signature Move, Brilliance, and Perfected Strike. So Signature Move almost kills that one. So we can do this. Great. Dexterity Potion. Not my favorite. I think I prefer the Distilled Chaos over it. There's another pressure points. The Empty Body isn't bad. All of these are upgraded, which is nice. Maybe we want the Sash Whip. Maybe? Maybe. Sure. Let's take the Sash Whip. It's another way to apply weak. And we have a pretty big deck now because of the apparitions. It doesn't work very well with the apparitions, but I don't know. It does something. That's probably the last attack that I add, though. So, retracing our steps only loses 2 max HP because we don't have that much max HP. It is a percentage. Becoming cursed with Writhe would be real bad. The 2 madnesses are not terrible. Losing 6 HP is not great, but it's not bad. The 2 madnesses would be upgraded because of Toxic Egg. But do we care about 2 madnesses? I don't think we do. I don't think we want that many skills as a glut in our deck. So we're going to lose 2 max HP. We feel drained. Hey, there we go. Tomb of Lord Red Mask. You can obtain a relic, but you have to offer all the gold that you have. This is perfect when you have 0 gold. I offer every gold coin I possess, sir. And we get the Red Mask. At the start of each combat, apply weak to all enemies. Very nice. That also can remove artifact charges from enemies, which is pretty nice. I like that we have the Red Mask and the Horn Cleat. That sort of protects us a little bit on the first turn and the second turn. So we don't have enough energy to play Signature Move. We can play Indignation and just kill the right one, I think. Because this would do a lot of damage. I think that's the best. So Indignation, play our biggest attack card, which is the Empty Fist. Actually, yeah, the Empty Fist. And then we play Strike here to kill this one. That way we're not taking damage. And Sash Whip to hurt this one. I like to hit the left and the right one, because in this one, the Chomp I think is only ever happens on, yeah, it says right here, the middle Darkling cannot chomp, which means the middle Darkling does less damage than the right and left ones. So I like to take out the right and left one first. Don't know what to do this turn. We are going to play Bowling Bash. Bowling Bash is no question. We can play all of our cards. Do we want to play the Apparition? I mean, let's think about it as we play. The Apparition would mean we don't take the damage we're about to take. Fine. Let's do the Bowling Bash on you. And a Brilliance on you. So he did revive, but he revived half health, which means he's easier to knock down. The Vigilance blocks the middle one entirely. Of course, we also have Apparition to block. Don't really want to enter Wrath this turn. So let's start with Vigilance, and then consider playing Empty Body instead of Apparition. It would get us out of Calm already, but then we wouldn't have to play Apparition to block everything. And I think that's worth it. And then let's strike you. So at this point, what we're really looking for is a turn that Crescendo is good. It could be this turn because of Rushdown. I don't know that it's really the turn. However, there's no reason to exit Wrath. So let's play Crescendo. I guess there's a reason to exit Wrath. But it's a interesting way to exit Wrath. So we can strike this one, and then there's no reason to play Apparition if we play Meditate. And Meditate essentially draws us 2 cards for next turn, such as Bowling Bash. Yeah, we could have 2 Bowling Bashes and Indignation. Indignation and Bowling Bash. So now we have a way to enter Wrath, draw 2 cards, and 2 Bowling Bashes to use while we're in Wrath. Seems pretty good. Let's even play the Foreign Influence. Ragnarok. Ragnarok for 0. Deal 12 damage to a random enemy 5 times. Great. Now, Bowling Bashes for victory. I really like Sanctity. I really like Tantrum. I actually like all of these cards. Usually I would prefer a Halt more than I do right now. The Halt is not as good because of Apparitions and because of Mental Fortresses and all of the ways we have to exit Wrath. The Sanctity involves more card draw. More card draw is good. The Tantrum is another way to enter Wrath, and it's a way to enter Wrath that really benefits from Akabeko. Let's take the Tantrum. So we have firmly built a stance deck now. We dance between the stances, we get blocked when we do, and sometimes we draw cards when we do. So here's the question. Which way are we going now? If we go here, we get a fire, and that's better than going this way. Yes, that is... It's always better, except that if we go this way, we could avoid both shops. Let's go this way and get the fire. I want to go to the fire so we can get the red key. We've got 2 apparitions here. That's not a bad way to start. We could play 1 apparition. I think the wave of the hand is not necessary. Let's play apparition, apparition, vigilance. Now we're blocking for everything. We are in calm, so we gain 2 extra energy later. So, we did not draw a way to guarantee that we have intangible when this explodes. Not yet, anyway. We could if we play Wheel Kick right here. Let's start with the Wheel Kick. And who do we want to Wheel Kick? I kind of want to Wheel Kick you, because then we could definitely kill you this turn. But I also kind of want to Wheel Kick the Spikers because we're currently intangible. Let's Wheel Kick this one, the Exploder. Ho-ho, we gained Crescendo. How many cards can we play this turn? If we play Crescendo, we gain 2 energy. Which means we've got 4 to spend. We could play Brilliance, Mental Fortress, Strike, and Strike. We don't want to play the Perseverance anyway, so let's do that. Enter Wrath. Play the Mental Fortress. Could have done that before Wrath, if it mattered. And then we are dealing lots of damage. That's 46. That's another 14, so we can kill this Spiker right now. I think we do. Now, we really want to kill the Exploder next turn, because it explodes. It's one of the things that Exploders are known for. We don't have Intangible, so attacking the Spiker is not good this turn. Playing Indignation applies Vulnerable. That's nice. And we can play... Having played that, we can't play Signature Move, which is kind of sad. Should have thought about that. Exploder, also kill the Repulsor, and we'll save the Spiker for following turns. No reason not to start with Rush Down. Let's Omniscience to Omniscience an Apparition. That double plays Apparition. which means we're intangible this turn and next turn. Granted, we can't play the Perseverance and a Bowling Bash, so we'll stop there. Now we can play a Defend, so that we don't take the spike damage, and then we can play Empty Fist to win. There we go. Took no damage again. It was more difficult that time. The Liquid Bronze. Liquid Bronze is pretty good in the Heart, the Corrupt Heart fight, because the Corrupt Heart at this Ascension level does 12 damage or damage 12 times in a row, which means it takes 36 damage back with Liquid Bronze. That's a fairly large amount of damage from a potion. Is it better than Distilled Chaos? I think it is. Distilled Chaos is too chaotic. Ho ho, Talk to the Hand. Talk to the Hand is one of the most versatile Watcher cards. Man, I can't say that. The Watcher has way too many versatile cards. Talk to the Hand is one of the versatile cards in the Watcher card pool. Whenever you attack this enemy, you gain 3 block. That means that you can just continue to attack an enemy over and over and over again and gain block out of it. It does have the problem that if the enemy has an artifact charge, then it doesn't work as well. But we do have, where is it? This one, the Red Mask, which takes off 1 artifact charge at the beginning of battle. So Talk to the Hand is nice. Let's add it to the deck. Giant Head. Giant Head has the slow ability. Every time you play a card, the Giant Head receives 10 more damage from attacks this turn. Mostly what that means is you want to play your attacks last. So we can play Foreign Influence first, for example. That counts as a card play. We could get Streamline from it. It's better than Wild Strike. It's better than Weave. And then we can play the Defends. That increases how much damage. And then you basically want to do the one that deals the least damage first. Except that we want to play Wheel Kick to draw more cards. Apparitions we don't need. So now we want to play Strike, so the Streamline does 50% more damage. We gained block from our Horn Cleat, which was perfect. However, we have the Ethereal Apparition, the only one that is still ethereal. I guess what we do is we play Mental Fortress. We've got some ways to block. Yeah, let's play Mental Fortress, Indignation, and this Apparition. This turn we were not likely to be attacked. I think what we want to do is play Empty Fist and then Tantrum, so that we exit our stance and then go back into it for the future turn. Because I think we do want to be in Wrath stance at the end of this turn. I'm looking at my draw pile to figure out if that's true. How many ways do we have to exit Wrath? One, well, these are not exits, but they are good while you're in Wrath. So 1, 2, 3, 4... 4 things that really help you when you are in Wrath. 5. Maybe we do not want to be in Wrath at the end of this turn. If that's true, we play Empty Fist last. Which means we just play these attacks in order from worst to best, and we only get to play 4 of them. So the worst are these 2. We certainly want to play this one. And then this one. And then the Tantrum. And then the Empty Fist. Great. Sash Whip can apply 2 weak. Crescendo gets back into Wrath, which we like. We perhaps don't want to be in Wrath this turn, however. We would get the extra block, and we would apply weakness. And we could play Perseverance. So it's not too bad to be in Wrath at the end of this turn. And we have plenty of ways left in the deck to get out of Wrath. So we want to be in Wrath. If that's true, I think we play Wave of the Hand first. Wave of the Hand and Talk to the Hand work really well together. It's like they named the cards so that they would work well together. We've got 4, so we can play all 4 of these. Are we going to play the Perseverance? Because we're going to apply... Well, we've already applied weakness. We're going to get 9 more block, which is not enough, so we play Perseverance. And now, we just play these in order from worst to best. Worst to best, in terms of attack value. So we do the most damage. That seems like a lot of damage. However, we can play an Apparition and just avoid all of it. I mean, we would still need to play the Defend to avoid all of it. Isn't it better to play... No, we've got Talk to the Hand, right. So we play Strike, we gain block, and then we can play Signature Move. 106 damage, very nice. We have another Apparition here, seems pretty nice. We could play Vigilance first, and then one of these cards that enter Wrath. Then we draw 2 cards. I think that's worth it. Vigilance, let's also play the Apparition. Actually, we'll wait. We'll wait to see if we need to play the Apparition. Let's play Tantrum. We're going to draw 2 cards. We know which cards we're going to draw. The Omniscience doesn't do anything if we draw it this turn. But it would do a lot next turn if we meditate it. So we play... Which one of these do we play? We play the Tantrum. And then we play... Oh, we don't get to meditate the Omniscience because it's in our hand. Right. Okay, well, I guess we play Apparition, Mental Fortress, Meditate. And we want a way to enter Wrath and a card that deals lots of damage. Like Signature Move. Like Signature Move. We could get an Intangible instead. Let's get Intangible instead. That kind of guarantees that we can spend another turn. Do we need to? Doesn't look like we do. We play Tantrum, and then we play Indignation, and then we just play attacks and win. Great. Bag of Preparation, great relic. At the start of each combat, draw 2 additional cards. That means that we have more choices on the first turn, which is kind of the most important turn in every battle. Mummified Hand, also very nice. Whenever we play a power, a random card in our hand costs 0. We have enough powers that that will take effect sometimes, and we draw enough cards that we care. We could get another Talk to the Hand. This is probably a good time to get Flurry of Blows. So we've got a Stance deck, which really likes attacking lots of times. And that means that Flurry of Blows is quite nice, because we get it back from our discard pile over and over again. And we can play lots of attacks. Lots of attacks works well with the Ornamental Fan. It does not work well against our boss, the Time Eater. But I think we're fine against the Time Eater. And it does work well against the Corrupt Heart. So we are going to take it. Establishment is not bad. We just don't have enough cards that retain for me to care. It works well with Mummified Hand. It works well with... I'm trying to find the other card that it works well with that you might not think about. Meditate. Because Meditate adds retain. So you retain them and then they reduce their cost with Establishment. It's just that we don't do enough retaining for Establishment to matter to me. So let's play Flurry of Blows. And then let's go here. Generally, it's a good idea to smith here, but for myself, I usually recall here, because if I forget to recall, then I don't get to go to Act 4. So I tend to recall before it's strategically necessary to recall, because I don't want to forget. So get the red key, that way we don't accidentally avoid recalling in the future. That's Sensory Stone. All right. So, with how many hit points we have, 10 damage is a lot. However, I think we can handle the 10 damage, and looking at 3 sets of colorless cards is so much stronger than 1. Colorless cards tend to be skills, which is also good with Toxic Egg. So let's spend the 10 health, look at 3 colorless cards. Bandage Up just heals 6. Master of Strategy draws 4 cards. Trip applies Vulnerable. You know, all of these are useful. The Master of Strategy and Trip are much more useful than Bandage Up. By the way, when choosing cards from multiple card packs, it's a good idea to look at all 3 card packs before you pick the card. So we can look at all 3, skip, and go back. In particular, in this one, I think Secret Technique is quite amazing. Put a skill card from your draw pile into your hand. That's really good. It's kind of like drawing exactly the card you need. We're going to take that one. The Chrysalis is interesting. Shuffle 5 random skills into your draw pile that cost 0 this combat. The main problem with Chrysalis is that it gums up the strategy of your deck. The skill cards might not work well with the strategy you have, and so it actually can make your deck worse, even though you get 0 cost cards. I don't actually want it here. I don't think I want Bandage Up. I don't know that I even want Swift Strike. I don't think I want Swift Strike. I think we do damage enough times. Swift Strike is worse than Flurry of Blows, because Flurry of Blows you get to play multiple times. I would have taken a Swift Strike if we had not put the Sash Whip in the deck, but since we did and we put Tantrum, Talk to the Hand, and Flurry of Blows, I think I don't want another attack card that we would draw. And then from this one, Trip and Master of Strategy are both really good, but Master of Strategy drawing 4 cards, that's extremely powerful. Let's take it. Alright, let's go this way. Remember here, we've got to choose the Sapphire Key. The Singing Bowl is really nice, but the Sapphire Key, you just need it if you're going to go to Act 4, which we are. So we'll take the Sapphire Key. And we could rest here, technically, but, you know, I like smithing. Couple good things to smith. We could smith the Final Apparition. We could smith this Wave of the Hands, make it a lot stronger. I think of the Wave of the Hand is the most significant smith at this point. So let's do that. Applying weak, 2 weak is much stronger than 1 weak. I like to say that applying 1 weak and applying 2 weak, you'd think that it would be double the effect, but it actually is more like 2.5 times better than 1 week. Because having 2 turns of weakness is so much better than 1 turn. Alright, the transient. So the transient with apparitions is really easy, because as long as you are intangible every turn that the transient is out, then it doesn't matter that the transient is... What am I trying to say? Then the transient never deals the big chunks of damage that it does, and it just leaves. You don't need to kill it. Generally, the way to beat the transient is to deal lots of damage really fast. We can do that in our deck. However, I think we're going to go the intangible route. So as long as we're intangible all the time, basically, then it doesn't matter how much damage the transient does. I think I want to do crescendo. But let's wait on the crescendo. The amount of damage we're doing this turn is not important. Mental Fortress is nice to put out. It made the empty body free. We don't really need to play the empty body. So we are intangible this turn. So this is a case where we can be intangible basically every turn, because we can play Omniscience, play an Apparition twice. That means that we're intangible for 3 turns, which happens to be the number of turns that the transient is still in this arena. So we've essentially already won the battle. All we really need to do is block at least 1 every turn, and we don't take any damage. Since that's the case, let's try to deal as much damage as possible to this transient. Do I care about anything? I think I care about a secret technique. Or that's what I'm playing. I meant Foreign Influence. Foreign Influence, let's get Riddle with Holes. And then let's exit our stance. That way we can play Crescendo on a future turn. And we even get Rushdown. So Rushdown, if you've got Flurry of Blows, it's usually good to play it before you change stances. So we're going to play Flurry of Blows, and then we change stances with Eruption. And then we get to play Flurry of Blows again. We can also play the Talk to the Hand that makes this battle even easier. Master of Strategy draws 4 cards. Let's play it. And what does the most damage? Brilliance, of course. Indignation does a lot of damage too. Let's do that. And Brilliance. So, final turn of the battle. How much damage can we do this turn? I don't know. We can play the Tantrum and the Bowling Bash. And then we can play the signature move. And, you know, we almost got it down half health. So we've talked about all these cards before. None of them particularly work in our deck. The Just Lucky is fine. But none of them particularly work. So let's skip. And unfortunately we're going to a shop. We have 0 money, so we just get to look at what's in the shop. Even when you have 0 money, looking at what's in the shop can be slightly valuable. The reason is relics that appear in the shop will not appear later in the run. So once you see a relic, you'll never see that relic again. So for example, Art of War, we will never get that relic. Usually that doesn't matter. There's enough relics in the game that knowing that specific relics are not going to be available is not the most important. But just to mention, there's actually a small value, teeny tiny small value, but a small value to looking at a shop even when you can't buy the relics in it. Or even when you can't afford anything that's in that shop. It's interesting, we could play Omniscience here. And Omniscience could put us in Wrath. If we played Omniscience to put us in Wrath, we could play... We can't really play Signature Move. I'm thinking about Omniscience to get Tantrum. Omniscience Tantrum does a lot of damage this turn. Puts us in Wrath. We've got an Apparition to deal with that. I like it. Let's play Omniscience. And play Tantrum. Very strong way to start this. The Writhing Mass, it's probably not good to do that, because one of the effects the Writhing Mass can do to you is add a curse to your deck, which I wasn't really thinking about very strongly when I did that. So we could play Defend, which would defend this one, but we could also play an attack, because Ornamental Fan also gives us block. So we're going to play the attack. We did get another Apparition, that's kind of important. Let's play that Apparition. So let's be careful this time. Let's play the best attack first. So this is the one where it is giving us a curse. So we really don't want that to be there. We would rather have this. We have Master of Strategy. Let's start with Master of Strategy. They're all 4 cards. There is an Apparition, a Rushdown, which makes something cost 0, made Indignation cost 0. It's nice to play that. Let's play Foreign Influence. So we could get the Blood for Blood, it would cost 0 this turn. I think that's useful. That does 42 damage. The Empty Fist doesn't quite win this turn. Doesn't quite win. Does that mean we don't play it? Because we could get cursed. We don't want to become cursed. Let's not get cursed. So we're not going to play the Empty Fist. And Wheel Kick... Wheel Kick does enough damage to win. Great. The Crush Joints is a card that we haven't seen in this one yet. It's easy to cause it to add Vulnerable. Vulnerable is good with the Watcher. I don't know if I like Crush Joints this late in the game, though. I already have all the attacks that I want in the deck. So adding another small attack that I would really prefer to be upgraded doesn't seem great. Let's not do that. The other 2 were fine, but not the deck that we built. Oh, and we're almost done. So, unfortunately this Apparition is not great because it's ethereal and we're not being attacked this turn. I think we start with Master of Strategy. It would have been nice to get something that put us in Wrath. I guess we can still get that with Secret Technique. Let's get that with Secret Technique. So Secret Technique, get the Indignation. Let's play Indignation. That puts us in Wrath. That means that we're doubling the effect of the Akabeko. And we're going to play the Strike to do that. Now we don't care about the Apparition that's going away. We do want to play Meditate at the end of this turn. So do we play the Strike? I think we play the Strike. Basically dealing with the Nemesis quickly is probably best. We can Meditate and get Secret Technique and a Strike. The Strike is not very valuable, but the Secret Technique might be good. So we're getting attacked for 7 times 3. Our enemy is intangible, so attacking the enemy is not very useful. We do have the boot. The boot makes it so that even though the Nemesis only takes 1 damage, Nemesis ends up taking 5 damage. We can also get a card from our deck with Secret Technique. That could be, for example, Omniscience. And then we could play Omniscience. Sure. Let's get Omniscience. Let's play Omniscience and double play an Apparition. So we are intangible this turn and next turn. That means that we're free to play Tantrum, and we get to play a something. A Quick Slash, I guess. So Tantrum will do essentially 5 damage 4 times. And then we still get to play Quick Slash. A Sash Whip. And then Apparition so that we remain intangible. And in theory, we win this turn. It's not necessarily true, but in theory, we win this turn. And it looks like it's not true. So let's remain intangible for future turns. We are getting more burns in our deck, which is not great. We need to end the battle. We're working on it. The wheel kick helps. If we play 2 more attacks, we make Ornamental Fan give us block. So let's do that. Bowling Bash and Empty Fist. That means Crescendo is something we could play next turn. And in theory, we draw a Rush Down. And then we get to draw cards. Alright. That one was a weird one. I don't think I talked about enough during that one, but basically I was trying to do damage many times because we had the boot. So dealing damage many times helps. Ice Cream. Energy is now conserved between turns. Not bad. Don't know how much we'll use it, but not bad. Teardrop Locket. Start each combat in calm. Very good. That's essentially like giving us 2 more energy. And with Ice Cream, we get that 2 more energy whenever we need it. So we could take a Halt. Halt is not bad. Especially because we're in Wrath a lot of times. Let's take a Halt. It has a Halt with a plus on it. It's part of the reason I'm taking it. And mostly I'm thinking about the Corrupt Heart at this point. How do we defeat the Corrupt Heart? And part of that is blocking well. Alright, we can rest to heal up to full health, or we could smith more cards. You know how much I like to smith more cards. The Mysterious Warlock. Hello, welcome to the stream. We are near the end of this run. I'm going to smith the final apparition. So every apparition is no longer ethereal. The Time Eater. So the Time Eater, the main thing about the Time Eater is that you want to have attacks that do lots of damage, block that gives lots of block. We have lots of energy this turn. Do we want to play Empty Fist? I didn't mean to say that. I meant to say, do we want to play Apparition? Because we could play Rush Down, Mental Fortress, Tantrum, Wave of the Hand. And we would gain a lot of block. I guess we don't need to make a choice on the Apparition until the end of the turn. So let's get lots of block. And weakness on our boss. Remember, the Rushdown also makes something free, which is pretty nice. It made the Empty Fist free. So, Tantrum will draw us cards and give us more energy. And I think we do need to play the Apparition. Unfortunately, we can't play Signature Move until after we play Empty Fist. I like the Mysterious Warlock. The Mysterious Warlock is giving us some lore for the game. Apparently, the Time Eater and the Watcher are from the same clan. Interesting. So we actually don't need to play the Apparitions, unless we want to use them for one block, which I don't think I care about enough. Let's not use Apparitions for one block. I've done it before, but those were in smaller combats. We have another Mental Fortress, and we have Omniscience. Omniscience could double play an Apparition, or it could double play something like Indignation, which is there. Let's double play Indignation. And we play a Mental Fortress first. Ooh, do we play... I think we play Defend Apparition first. Because then the Omniscience is free. Let's do that. This is basically gaining energy. We did use an Apparition that we didn't need to use in order to gain energy, but still. Making Omniscience free is pretty good. Oh man. Except that we only have so many card plays. Alright, well, we'll get into Wrath, and then end the turn. Whoops. We did draw more Apparitions. I don't know if I want to play the other Apparition. We're likely to be attacked next turn. Sure. We're taking 3 damage, which I don't like because we had the draw down effect. The draw down effect really hurt us that time. We can play Talk to the Hand, Sash Whip. Eventually the Time Eater is going to heal itself and enter a phase which it removes all of the debuffs. Unfortunately, Talk to the Hand is a debuff on the boss, so it will be eventually removed. And eventually is not far from now. So after this attack, after this one, this Time Eater is going to heal. It's going to heal because we're going to deal damage this turn, which brings it down to less than half its health. We can draw lots of cards if we play Vigilance, and then Tantrum, which I think we need to do because how are we blocking this turn? I guess we can always use our Liquid Memories. If we're in a bad situation, we can use Liquid Memories. Or we could use Halt, which is great. We can only play 2 more cards this turn. Let's make them count. So a Strike and a Bowling Bash. Now, in theory, we'll see if the theory is true this time. In theory, if we win this turn, if we can do enough damage this turn, then we avoid the heal. The question is, can we do enough damage this turn in 12 cards? And it looks like the answer is probably no. And if we can't win this turn, then there's no reason to do anything this turn. Unless we just want to play Meditate. Or the Tantrum, because the Tantrum... Let's see here. If we do Tantrum and then Meditate, we could basically set up our next turn. We would only be able to play 10 cards next turn, but we could set it up. So Meditate... Let's Meditate Signature Move, definitely. And What else do we want? We could get an apparition. Because we need an apparition for next turn, potentially. Potentially. Or we could get wheel kick. Let's get wheel kick. So we're guaranteed to draw tantrum. We knew we were going to draw tantrum. Wave of the hand will add a bunch of weakness this turn. Now we draw 2 more cards. We did get an apparition, don't know if we need it. Let's play our wheel kick. We have 7 more plays. One of those is going to be signature move. So we've got to play these 2 strikes so that we can play signature move. We have empty fist. Oh, okay. Empty fist. Unfortunately, the crescendo draws cards, so we might still not be able to play signature move. Well, we can, and we win with it. Signature move. All right. We win Act 3 pretty commandingly. We didn't use any of our potions. And go into Act 4. Act 4 is always dangerous. I find Act 4 to be particularly difficult with the Watcher. I don't know what it is, but the Watcher to me is really good in the early game, and in Act 4 it seems like I build Watcher decks that don't do well against the Heart. I've gotten better at it, but I still kind of fail. I think the Smith is better than 3 health, so let's Smith yet again. And at this point, the Mental Fortress Smith might be the right one. I think it is. That is passive block, essentially. And then we visit the shop, which we look at the wares and we say, if only we weren't a beggar on the streets, we could afford these things. So the Mysterious Warlock says that the Watcher is the most overpowered character in Slay the Spire, especially how easily she can go infinite. So I certainly agree that the Watcher is one of the most powerful, well, is the most powerful of the starting 4 characters, of the 4 characters in the base game. However, I wouldn't say it's because she can go infinite. The Defect can go infinite really easily too, and I don't think that infinite is the way that you win a lot of the time. That's just my opinion, but I don't think that the infinite is the reason. So, what shall we do in this battle? I usually go for the Spire Spear on the right first, and that's really because it's hard to kill this one first, because it blocks a lot. We have a secret technique in our hand. A secret technique could easily get an Omniscience. We have Rush Down, and we have Mental Fortress. We could actually play Rush Down. I mean, we're going to play Rush Down no matter what. Let's start there. That made Sash Whip free. We could Secret Technique for Omniscience, and then play Omniscience to enter Wrath. It's annoying that we can't really play Mental Fortress first. However, what else could we Secret Technique? We could Secret Technique Crescendo, or Indignation, just go into Wrath directly. I really wanted to Secret Technique Omniscience. The other option is Master of Strategy, which is very strong. Let's do a Master of Strategy. So, but we draw cards if we go into Wrath. I do want to go into Wrath this turn. Let's get the Indignation. So Indignation, this draws us cards. It also gives us block if we play this first, which we will. For an influence, we can get bludgeon, which will be free to play this turn. I think that's kind of nice. Deals 82 damage. Can we kill the shield first? I think we can. So let's go for it. Shield down. Shield down. And we do still need to play Apparition, right? Yeah, we still need to play Apparition. We do have a couple more apparitions, which is great to see. Let's start with the wheel kick, though. Flurry of Blows. We can play Empty Body Eruption, play Flurry of Blows again. If we did that, we can only play one of the apparitions. I don't think that's valuable. Let's play our apparitions. And just play Bowling Bash. And maybe we play Empty Body, because we've got a Tantrum and a Crescendo, and we want to be out of Wrath so we can draw cards. Also lets us play Flurry of Blows again. So, order matters. Crescendo first, we enter Wrath, we draw 2 cards. Flurry of Blows. Talk to the hand, strike. That means we can play Signature Move and win. Alright. Shuriken. Shuriken is great, especially with the deck that we've built. Every time you play 3 attacks in a single turn, gain 1 strength. Strength is particularly good with the Watcher. Blood Vial. Terrible at this point. This just gives us 2 health. 2 health is not very significant. Dexterity Potion, not really what we need. I think we like our current set of potions. We could get a Deva form or a Tantrum for the final battle. The Deva form is interesting with Ice Cream. We would just have so much energy. It also works with the Mummified Hand because it makes something else free. It also could be made free. I don't know if we want it. How much energy do we need in the final battle? I'm not sure. I want it, though. I want to take it because I really like playing with Deva form. Let's do it because of that reason. I like playing with it. Therefore, let's take it. Alright. So, we're at 53 out of 54. We actually did not draw any of our apparitions this turn, which is good, because we want to draw them in the future turns. Use that strength potion immediately. No reason to hold on to liquid bronze. Because of the heartbeat, every time we play a card, we take 1 damage. That means we want to be careful about gaining block. We want to gain block before we play other cards. So, play the defend first. Then we can play mental or for an influence. Carve Reality adds a smite to our hand. Body Slam deals damage equal to our block. That might be really good in this fight. Let's take it. So, Mental Fortress. I think the Mysterious Warlock and I have very, very similar opinions on Deva form. So, Deva form would be too awkward at this point, and the Mysterious Warlock loves to play with it. So, I think we're in the similar case. I did not know that it was a great thing to play, but I wanted to play it. So, Flurry of Blows first before Empty Fist, or before Empty Body, so we get to play Flurry of Blows again. If we play 2 more attacks, Body Slam does more damage. There we go. And then the strike. Alright. We ended up doing a fair amount of damage the first turn. The real problem is we absolutely need to draw something this turn so that we don't die. And there it is. The Apparition was what we needed. So we play Apparition. Now, no reason not to play Tantrum and Indignation. I will play the Tantrum first, so that we can apply 5 vulnerable to the heart. Alright, no reason to play the Defend. We do keep the energy due to Ice Cream, so playing the Defend would be absolutely negative right now. So here's another time where we really want an Apparition. We happen to draw Apparition yet again. How about that? Seems like we draw it when we need it. We are going to take some damage this turn because of the beat of the heart. So I think we start with Talk to the Hand, and then Sash Whip. So that gains us a little bit of block, and then we play Apparition, and then we take 14 damage, which is not great, but it's not enough for me to use my Liquid Memories to avoid it. We'll use Liquid Memories when we absolutely need to. Also, because of our Thorns, the Corrupt Heart is getting damage back 3 times every time it attacked. If we play Vigilance, we could play Vigilance Crescendo. I don't know if I want to use my Crescendo that way, but I certainly want to play Vigilance. We could just not worry about it and play Wheel Kick, take the beat of the heart damage. Or actually, we will not take it because of the Talk to the Hand. So let's play Wheel Kick. There's the Rush Down. We definitely wanted to see that. And then Strike and Signature Move seem good to me. And then the real question is, do we play Vigilance at the end of this turn? Notice, by the way, that there's 27 here. That's the Invincible effect. So on our current Ascension level, Invincible is set to 300. On other higher Ascension levels, it's 200. That means that we can do up to 300 damage each turn. It means you can't just beat the boss with an infinite combo, for example. You can't just say, I have an infinite combo, I just win this turn. You have to last so many turns in the heart battle. We just did 273 damage that turn, which is pretty nice. It's pretty nice. I think we do want to play Vigilance this turn. That also means we get to do another 9 damage. We almost reached the max damage that we can do against the heart that turn. Unfortunately, the heart has 302 damage, 302 health, so we can't win next turn. But I didn't think we were going to win next turn anyway, so it's not the most important. Omniscience here is quite good, because Omniscience can double play an Apparition, which means that we will be safe for the next 2 turns. I'm thinking about playing Strike Slimed first, so we can play the Mental Fortress, and that will make one of these 2 free, save me the most energy. I think I will do that. The Strike first, because we get block when we do the attack, the Slimed, and then the Mental Fortress makes one of those 2 free. Made the Eruption free. So now we'll play Eruption, switch stances, and now Omniscience can give us 2 more turns of Apparition. It could also give us Deva Form, 2 Deva Forms, gain enormous amounts of energy. Don't think we need that. Let's get 2 more turns of Intangible. And that essentially wins this battle, honestly. At this point, we're just finishing up. because next turn we're only getting 1 damage, and the Corrupt Heart is only at 46. Alright, Deva form is here. Alright, we've got to play Deva form so that we play Deva form, right? Let's play the defend first so it doesn't hurt us. There we go, we played Deva form. Congratulations to us. And then we can probably win. Probably. Alright. That was the Watcher. Let's just press the proceed button. So that was the Watcher. I found it a lot harder to do my Overexplained run with the Watcher because there's just too many things to think about. But at the end of the day, the Watcher is different from the other characters because it really matters what order you play all of your cards in. That's the trickiest thing about the Watcher, is getting the order of your cards right. We did quite well that run. We got Champion 6, that means we defeated 6 elites without taking damage. And we got 1 perfect, which means we defeated 1 boss without taking damage. That was pretty nice. The Collector means that we had 4 copies of a non-starter card in our deck. Oops, we have to proceed before we can look at the stats, I guess. Alright, let's look at the deck that we just won with. Okay, thanks for coming, Tom. I'm glad the Overexplained runs are well received. I've done one with the Defect, we've now done one with the Watcher. Those are the 2 that I think people have the hardest time with in the game. So now that I've done those 2, I might as well round it out, but I did those 2 first because I thought those were the ones that people have the hardest time with. So here's our deck. The Collector that we got was because of the apparitions. We had 5 of those. We upgraded all 5. One of the things about apparitions is they get a lot better upgraded. And it's hard to spend upgrades on apparitions because you get, at the lower ascension levels, at this ascension level, you get 5. So upgrading all 5 of them takes 5 upgrades. That hurts. The Mysterious Warlock asks, what's my favorite build archetype? So, my favorite build archetype is passive damage, and or maybe I should say damage that builds up over time. So in particular, that's Poison with the Silent, and I really like one of the things that we skipped pressure points in the very first battle of this fight, which was painful because pressure points is one of my favorite builds of the Watcher because it's kind of like a poison build for the Watcher. It's just that there's only 1 card that does it, so it's not the most strategic to pick it up unless you can guarantee multiple, and you can never guarantee multiple. So it's hard to build a pressure points deck when you are trying to win a run, guaranteed, like trying to give yourself the greatest chance to win a run. But man, I love those pressure points decks. They're fun. And Poison with the Silent is a similar thing. I just like that increased damage over time stuff. Same with Claw on the Defect. Note, a lot of these strategies are not the best strategies for those particular characters, but they are my favorite. Anything else I want to say about this deck? I guess the other thing which I said during the run, but it bears repeating, is that one of the most consistent builds in the Watcher, so consistent that if you're one of the higher level players, you almost build it every single time, is a Stance Dance deck. And Stance Dance means that you change stances over and over and over again, trying to get benefit from that. And we did that. So We had 2 mental fortresses, which every time we changed stances, we gained 6 block. We had a flurry of blows. Whenever we changed stances, we got flurry of blows back from the discard pile. And we had one other one. What was it? We had Rushdown. Whenever we enter Wrath, draw 2 cards. So those are 3 different cards. We ended up with 4 cards that really liked us changing stances constantly. And we had lots of ways to change stances. We had a Tantrum, which is a great way to enter Wrath because it gets shuffled into your draw pile, not your discard deck when you play it. We had the ones that you start with. We had the Eruption and Vigilance. And we had a couple things that removed us from stances. We had an Empty Body and an Empty Fist. We had Crescendo, also to get into Wrath. And we had Meditate, also to get into Calm. So we had plenty of ways in the deck to move in and out of stances. And that tends to be the most consistent way to build a Watcher deck, is to stance, to move in and out of different stances as often as possible, gaining benefits from doing so. All right, well, I think I'm going to wind down for now. This was another very long run. My Overexplained runs are even longer than I expected them to be. But this went great. And sometime in the future, I will play an Overexplained run as the Ironclad and the Silent. And after I do that, I'll probably stop the Overexplained runs unless people specifically ask for more. So if you like them, ask me for more. Thanks for coming, and have a good night.